All right, folks, good evening. Welcome to the Harwich Select Board meeting of Monday, August 24, 2026. And going to call the meeting to order. In the first order of business, if you would please join us. If able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Appreciate that, folks. And before we jump into comments and announcements, we want to recognize the passing of Alan Thompson and what he's meant to this community. So with that said, I'm going to start down with Mr. Howell, and any members of the board that would like to comment, please take the time to do so.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just briefly, I knew Alan for about 35 years, and I have to say he was probably one of the most singly important people in Harwich during that entire period of time. I know for a fact that he had an impressive resume, including his tenure on the Board of Selectmen, as it was called back then. But I know also, because Alan and I collaborated on a lot of things through the years, that the thing he was most proud of was his tutorship for the environment. That he was a water and then a wastewater commissioner, and possibly the source of greatest pride to him was the I'm not going to go on. The Pleasant Bay Alliance. I'm losing my thoughts here. He was a heck of a guy. He was a presence and a half. And the town is a lot poorer for. I know people come around to sit in the place that he was sitting in, but I doubt there's anyone who's ever going to be fully able to replace him.
Thank you. Appreciate those kind words. Mark, any comments?
Sure. I knew Alan from calling on him for business when he worked for Robert Auer. Always treated me nice, didn't give me much business, but so be it. But I just remember him being such a nice man, and what really touched me is when his wife passed, the tribute he gave to her and just the accolades that came about his wife and about him. So I just think he was a stand-up guy, and he's with the love of his life now, so God bless him. Thanks.
Appreciate those words. And I had the pleasure as a young select board member many years ago of running into Alan at various locations throughout town, and he was always gracious with his time and his advice. So it was always a pleasure to have a conversation with him and learn from him. There aren't many people in town who can dedicate 60 plus years of their life to their community and be universally liked. And Alan was able to accomplish that, which speaks volumes for that man. So rest in peace, Alan. Anita.
Yeah, I too I had the privilege of working with Alan for many years. He was a gentleman. He always always entered a room with a smile. And right now I can honestly say that I wish he and his family all the best. I know it's going to be a hard time. With losing Izzy, I think that was probably the hardest thing that he ever went through. And now he's with her. And I think that the two of them are happy together. So I wish he and his family right now all the best.
Mr. Handler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's hard to encapsulate Alan's service to the town, to the Cape. But when you go through life, you meet a lot of people along the way. And every once in a while, you'll meet someone and you'll walk away from the encounter thinking that was probably one of the greatest people I've ever had an opportunity to meet. See, with Alan, it was a little different. Because anyone who had the opportunity to meet Alan, talk with Alan, be part of Alan's life, he made a special point to make it so that when you walked away, you felt like the most important, greatest, kind human being he's ever met. And that was truly a special gift of his. And, he was a great man, he did great things, and he left behind an incredible legacy. And if the town of Harwich can indulge one more ask, as if he hasn't done enough for this town, I think the town of Harwich would ask him when he sees Izzy to give her a really big hug for the town. So our condolences and sympathies are with his family. May he rest in peace, and will be missed. And if I could move on to another sad,
Please.
okay. We also lost Mr. Robert Knott. Passed away at his home in Naples, Florida, suddenly, March 16th, 2026. Bob dedicated more than 30 years to law enforcement, beginning with the Harwich Police Department, and later joining the Massachusetts State Police in 1985. Throughout his distinguished career, Bob served as a trooper and a sergeant with the Cape and Islands District Attorney's Office, specializing in homicide and computer crime investigations, and ultimately as a lieutenant and a station commander in Bourne and South Yarmouth. He retired on December 31st, 2009, after 30 and a half years of dedicated service to the citizens of both Harwich, Cape Cod. And on a side note, I had the pleasure of playing softball with Bob in a softball league in Barnstable many years back. He's just a very caring, incredible man, but I can promise you, you just didn't want to be on the wrong side of Bob. Our sympathies go out to his entire family, including his wife Liz. You know, if everybody would like to join me in a moment of silence for both Mr. Thompson and Mr. Knott, that would be greatly appreciated by this board. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Appreciate all the kind words from everybody. So with that, we will jump right into the comments and announcements. So any member of the public wishing to address the board this evening, please come up to the microphone and let us know what you have to say.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Art Bowden, 800 Orleans Road, Harwich. And I'm going to read my comment, so it won't be too long, and I won't leave anything out. Good evening. My comment tonight is about the reconfiguration of the Chatham Road and Route 39 intersection, locally known as Hope and Go. On Monday, September 17th, my wife nearly had a crash at this intersection. She was heading north on Route 39, slowing down with her left-hand blinker on to make a left-hand turn into our driveway at 800 Orleans Road. A vehicle was stopped at the exit from Harwich Road and was prepared to exit to make a left-hand turn onto 39 heading south. At this moment, the vehicle exited, pulling out, causing my wife to brake hard to come to a full stop to avoid a crash. True, the configuration of this intersection looks pretty. I have to admit that, and I even made a comment about that. It does not solve the original problem. Traffic exiting Chatham Road still follows the same pattern, and it does not solve the original problem. The traffic exiting, I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself here. Traffic exiting Chatham Road still follows the same pattern, except now the exit lane has been moved a few feet north. The reconfiguration of the Chatham Road and Route 39 intersection has now added an additional hazard for anyone turning into 800 Orleans Road. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to address the board this evening?
Good evening, Select Board. Patrick Otten, East Harwich. I am submitting my application to serve on the PBA. That PBA stands for Pleasant Bay Alliance. Have you ever gotten your feet wet in Pleasant Bay? Do you know what a Secchi disc is or a Van Dorn sampler? Do you know what they are? All part of the first citizen science project approved by the EPA, and that was initiated by PBA. Again, first citizen science project approved by the EPA, initiated by the PBA. These are tools used for monitoring water quality. I've been involved with that project for 3 years. The Pleasant Bay Estuary is the largest on the East Coast. What is the human impact on nature and the environment? What controls need to be put into place? Critical to the future of Lower Cape Cod, with the designation of a watershed, these are questions that the PBA is attempting to answer. My objective is to serve on the PBA steering committee representing Harwich to communicate the balance between public access, climate change, and the watershed ecosystem. Thank you. I'm going to present this to Jay. Who knows when it's going to be on your agenda again to have an application accepted? But I'm going to leave it on Jay's desk, and he can turn it in when it's ready.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public wishing to address the board?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, members of the board, town administration, Terry Canavan, West Harwich. I also had the pleasure of knowing Alan Thompson for many years, and I'll be short and say he was a true, genuine gem for the town of Harwich. I also had the pleasure of knowing Izzy, and she was one of my favorite people in the recreation department sit and fit class. She had her chair, and I picked it for her right in the front row so she could hear everything. She was quite a wonderful addition to the group. But I digress a little. It's very rare that I have an opportunity to come before you and actually ask for recognition for outstanding employee work. And I'm very proud to do that tonight. First of all, I'd like to recognize the town administrator for this wonderful publication, the Harwich Current. There's so much valuable information that's in it, and you've done a fabulous job. And I thank you for getting printed copies out, because everybody loves it that reads it. Item number 2. This month, by the Town of Harwich Finance Director and Town Accountant, she has done an enormous amount of work. And it is the first time in my 38-year history of owning in Harwich that I have ever seen a printed copy of town budget. And I actually understood some of it. And I'm not one to know municipal finances, except if there's a debt, 83 million and counting. Oh, and she ought to be recognized for this outstanding work. And there's one other person. I had the opportunity to be referred to the assistant, let me get his title right, Assistant Superintendent of the Wastewater Department in the town of Harwich, Jonathan. He actually called me back and left me his cell phone and invited me to return his call, which I was delighted to do. I had the most informative and educational conversation with this young man, and I don't know him, but everybody's young to me, right? So he explained to me something that I think every resident in the town of Harwich needs to learn, and that is our wastewater system is totally separate from our drinking water system. there's no way the two can be met. And we all know what's happening horribly throughout the country of hackers getting into water systems. In one of the states, I believe it was Oregon, they actually did connect raw sewerage from wastewater treatment into the drinking water. I can't imagine the difficulty those fine folks are gonna have trying to fix that. But that cannot happen here. And I encouraged him to please get a couple of paragraphs written to that effect so it could be printed maybe in the next edition of the Harwich Current to make sure all of our residents know that. It is so important these days to share things like that. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Any other members of the public wishing to address the board this evening? Seeing none, we'll move along to staff.
Good evening, Emily Mitchell, Town Clerk. Just wanted to give a brief update in the lead up to state primary election day. So the state primary election is next Tuesday, so a week from tomorrow, Tuesday, September 1st. Polls will be open at the Harwich Community Center from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. for all registered voters in the town of Harwich. Voters also have the option to vote by mail, and if they wish to vote by mail, they need to apply to do so, and the deadline to file that application is tomorrow, Tuesday, August 25th, by 5 p.m. We have to receive that application by 5 p.m. A postmark is not sufficient. So again, voters wishing to vote by mail, apply no later than tomorrow. And then those voters must return their mailed ballot to us by close of polls, 8 p.m. on Election Day, September 1st. Voters can also vote early in person. That is happening this week. Our office is open Monday through Friday this week, 8:30 to 4 p.m. each day for anyone wishing to vote early in person. And if folks have any questions on process, timing, how to be sure their ballot is counted, they should certainly contact us with any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other staff members wishing to address the board this evening? Mr. Handler?
I may, thank you,
You
Mr.
may.
Chair. I'd just like to announce to the public, I will be holding Select Board Member Jeffrey Handler office hours, September 8th, 2026, from 7:30 a.m. to 8:45 a.m. at the Harwich Community Center, 100 Oak Street in room 3. So anyone who's looking to give me a piece of their mind, please show up.
What time?
Yeah, 10 o'clock. Starts for you at 10 o'clock.
I'll meet you.
And I so hope you show up.
Meet you out back. All right, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Any other members of the staff wishing to address the board? We good? The one thing I'm gonna say tonight, I'm not gonna say much because I'll screw it up, but it's been a few days now, but I want to recognize the Harwich Mariners for their accomplishment. 2 out of 3 years is certainly a dynasty in waiting. So congratulations, they represented the town of Harwich well. We congratulate them on their efforts and look forward to many more incredible years of championships in the community. So, no?
Yeah.
All right.
I was a born brave, so they took out my,
Says a lot.
yeah. Yeah, it does.
But no, congratulations to that group. They did a tremendous job. With that, we'll jump along to the town administrator's report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. A few items this evening, then I'll jump into the two-week, the briefing, the wastewater briefing. First, exciting news from our bond rating. I'm pleased to share some excellent news that Standard & Poor's has reaffirmed the town's AAA bond rating on our outstanding general obligation bonds and has assigned the AAA rating, which is the highest rating attainable on the upcoming bond issue. This is a significant achievement for the town of Harwich and reflects our financial management heading into the upcoming bond sale. First, I'd like to thank, as Terry mentioned, Jen Mintz, our finance director, but then the finance team that presented on the call as well. Myself and Jim, Crystal, our treasurer collector, and Carly, our assessor, for their outstanding work. We had a team effort on this, and everyone really contributed equally on the bond rating call and the preparation going into it. S&P will be sending over their draft credit report soon, which probably happened this afternoon, and I'll keep the board posted as things move forward. We'll have the upcoming bond sale in the next few weeks, and you'll be signing all of the bonds after that as well. So congratulations to the team and to the town of Harwich as well.
Agreed, Jay, and I'll say thank you to you as well. Obviously, I know you worked with the entire team to make this happen, or at least to continue this for the town, and it can't be stated strongly enough how significant this is for the town. You know, the bond rating, if there's any slippage in bond rating, that equals real dollars to this community. And so the fact that you and your team, along with Jen Mitz and her team, were able to present the way in which you did, we're grateful, we're appreciative, and let's keep up the great work.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. It was I think after the bond rating call last week, the team all felt pretty invigorated. It was very easy to sell Harwich right now. I led with the Boston.com story about being the best town on Cape Cod. I seconded it with that we're the hottest real estate market in Massachusetts, 15th in the country. You know, those are things that really make it so that there's no slippage in this town, like the
You didn't bring
value.
up the Mariners.
I didn't bring it, I should have. With the Mariners.
Next time.
Of course, like 2 days later, there was this news story that came out that said Peabody was the hottest real estate market. So I don't, whatever, my story was first, so
Right, there
I
you go.
used it at the rating call.
There you
So,
go.
yeah, it's easy to sell Harwich, it really is. And if I was gonna go to I'm not sure everybody is familiar with it, but if I had to go deep in the pocket, I was gonna ask them if they'd seen the Cape Cod Line Girl. You know, it's a Facebook page dedicated to lines, or Instagram page, it's Instagram, not Facebook, and it's dedicated to the length of lines at establishments. And shockingly enough, some of our Harwich Port places are featured on it, so.
Longest lines. We should
The
be-
longest lines, so.
Thank you for understanding my glaze and
I knew
explaining
what you
that.
were, I forgot who I was talking to there for a second.
Appreciate that.
So, moving on, so Cherokee Road wanted to give the board an update on a field order for Phase 3A sewer project affecting the sewer and drainage work on Cherokee Road. Gravity sewer lines on Cherokee Road proved to be too deep to feasibly part way through construction. The design was switched over to lower pressure sewer, but the original design, because the intent originally was to do it with gravity, not low pressure sewer, didn't capture the additional low pressure sewer and drainage needs to finish the entire road. So this field order fills the gap and adds catch basins to address drainage concerns raised by residents on the street. They're estimating the additional sewer work and drainage will be about $180,000 total. And the figures will come in lower. That's worst case scenario based on the cost estimates. This is fully covered in the 10% contingency and is built into our SRF funding. So just more of an FYI. A portion of the road was originally designed. It left off about 4 houses and significant drainage work that Brian Albee wanted to get accomplished. So we added that in through a field order. So. Next item, just an update on what's considered the Mass Ready Act. This has made the news on Cape Cod recently, so I wanted to address it with the board. This is a part of the environmental bond bill and was an agenda at the most recent Cape Managers meeting I attended. It's a bill that could affect the town's ability to enforce their own wetland and wastewater rules, especially for certain housing projects moving forward. The Mass Municipal Association has sent a letter to the conference committee who's looking at whether or not to take up this legislation. The Mass Municipal Association letter supports the bill, but not all of the pieces of it, especially the funding pieces, and raised concerns about what I just talked to. Ultimately, you know, if I'm reading this right, and based on what the town of Yarmouth has put together, and what they voted a few weeks ago, is that potentially not being compliant with this Mass Ready Act could affect the ability for the town to receive grant money from the state. And I'm not sure where that ends up going. Obviously, there's been some work around that through the state with the MBTA 3A bill and how it related to that. So something we need to keep an eye on.
Just if I can interrupt you real quickly, it was probably me, but it could impact the town's ability to enforce their own wetlands and water, wastewater rules.
Correct.
I didn't hear the word ability, but I'm sure you said it, but I can't stress that enough. In other words, it's taking local control away, and that's problematic. And then the threat by the Commonwealth is we're gonna take away potential, grant money from you. And it's a game that I don't like to see them play. I understand that they wanna hold the cards, but for the Harwich to continue to lose local control over matters is very concerning to me. And at some point, as a community, we have to be less concerned with the potential grant money coming in and start to push back on them. But that's my comments to my colleagues. It's not the position of the board, so Thank you.
So my thoughts were to add this to a future select board meeting so that the board can weigh in on the bill and its implications on Harwich and how we'd like to address it. The town of Yarmouth voted to support the Mass Municipal Association's letter, but I'm not sure that the board fully supports the MMA letter, so we may want to take a different approach. The legislation was filed by our state senator, so another option could be to ask him to come to a meeting and speak to it, you know. But I don't know, we have a few different options, and we'll have it on a future agenda for a discussion item, so.
Thank you.
An update on the Monomoy Regional Agreement Working Group. Last Thursday, we held the first working group meeting in Chatham. We're going to alternate meeting locations, with the next meeting will be held in Harwich in this room here on September 17th, which is a Thursday night. We agreed to initially meet monthly until we get really into it, and then potentially ramp up from there, but we're initially going to meet monthly. Brad Schiff, the chair of the school committee, was elected as chair of the working group. Actually, he did a really good job kind of managing that group. We had conversations. One of the agenda items was to potentially hire a facilitator to help, but I think Brad, brings that spirit to the table. So we decided not to move forward with a facilitator and let Brad kind of try to do that as a neutral, hopefully neutral third party. We worked through an understanding of the timeline and potential agenda topics. I made it clear what we thought was the most important agenda item that we had discussed in this room. And we talked about covering those topics over the next few months. We also discussed, and Brad kind of brought this to the table, decorum, roles and responsibilities. We spent a lot of time on that and what we expect of each other in the working group. Overall, it was a good meeting. Looking forward to continuing the work, and we'll be together on Thursday, September 17th next. I'll give you an update after that. So, last week, we also had what I believe is supposed to be quarterly, but I'm not sure that there might have only been one in the last year, the Chatham Harwich Wastewater IMA Advisory Board. So this is a group that meets and gets together. It's mostly staff of Chatham and Harwich. I don't think there's any elected representatives or appointed representatives on the Harwich side. There was a couple on the Chatham side in the meeting. But we basically talked about the status of our ongoing sewer work, timelines, and when we're going to begin to send flow. I think the biggest conversation was when, they've built capacity around our flow, and we haven't really sent much flow yet. So talked a lot about 3A, finishing up where we are in phase 2, what's happening with 3, and talked about 3A coming online construction-wise now. And that kind of ties to our agenda item this evening around the flow neutral policy. But I did have that meeting last week. Jason, our wastewater and water superintendent, joined me, and we're going to try to meet more often. Website accessibility. I want to flag an important federal deadline coming up regarding the website, the town's website accessibility compliance. Under the Department of Justice Title II rules, municipalities under $50,000, including Harwich, must bring their websites compliance with accessibility standards by April 24th, 2027. So that's
$50,000?
yeah, under $50,000 in population. Yeah, population.
People.
So yeah, if you have under 50,000 people in population, you need to be compliant by that deadline in 2027. To meet this deadline, we've contracted with Civic Plus. They have an audio eye program, which add accessibility tools directly to the website, and then a doc access, which addresses the accessibility into our PDF library. So we're looking to deal with hearing and sight impaired individuals as it relates to our website, primarily hearing impaired as it relates to our website. I'm sorry, not hearing, eye impaired, visually impaired. I'll be meeting with department heads soon on the topic, and we'll keep the board updated. But by signing this agreement, I believe we'll be able to be in compliant by that deadline in 2027 with the town's website. And then finally, just on the historic restriction, wanted to give you an update on the HPR, the Historic Preservation Restriction for 62 Route 28, the former First Baptist Church in West Harwich. It's been an amazing project to watch start to come together. Anybody that's driving down Route 28 right now can see the significant improvements that are taking place with the Baptist Church. I want to thank John Kerry for that. He's really doing amazing work over there. This has been, he's preserving one of West Harwich's most recognizable landmarks that was built in 1841. John's been a great partner. He's been keeping me engaged throughout the process, asking me to come down, take a look at the building, to be able to take photos, kind of do the inspectional process, because we funded almost $700,000, or we will be funding almost $700,000 in CPC money towards the exterior and some interior renovation work on the project. One of the pieces that we required as part of the grant agreement was that he put a historic preservation restriction on it. I've been working with town council and John over the last couple months to finalize that, and we finally got it informed, it will be on the agenda. The Historic Commission agreed to a special meeting next Wednesday night. So they're gonna have a special meeting just to vote the HPR. They're the signature on the preservation restriction. The town's holding the historic preservation restriction with the Historical District and Historical Commission. So once that's signed, few small documents left, but pretty much we'll be able to move forward. We'll start reimbursing him for the work that he's been doing. Then just on a contract, electrical panel update of the 204. I signed a contract with Matco Electric LLC of Fairhaven for the replacement of the fire alarm control panel at 204 Sisson Road Cultural Arts Building. $26,510 project was competitively billed. We had originally thought this might be about a $100,000 project, and the bids came in, low bid came in at $25K. Through the public invitation for bid process, and we awarded to the lowest responsible and eligible bidder. This will bring the building's fire alarm system up to current standards. That's it for my report. I'll jump into the briefing.
Any questions before he jumps along? Mr. Handler?
Thank you. Jay, thank you for all of that. Has there been a request for funds from Mr. Carey as of yet?
Yeah, there has, not a formal request, but I'm pretty confident that he's itching to be able to get reimbursed for some of these costs because he's out the money up front. So working with the finance department to make sure that all of the items in the grant agreement are taken care of, and hopefully we'll be able to process the first reimbursement as quickly as possible.
Excellent, thank you.
And
All
Jay,
right.
real quick, sorry, the fire panel upgrade,
Yes.
where are those funds coming from?
So there's an article from town meeting a couple years ago, I don't remember exactly what year, that was about $1 million appropriated for various projects related to the cultural facility. Yeah, so it's one of those items that was brought to town meeting a couple
Okay.
years ago.
Thank you.
Yeah, we bundled a bunch of projects into one article, went to town meeting, and this is one of those projects.
Excellent, thanks.
All right, jump in.
Yes.
All right, so up first, I'll do an update on Phase 3, which I found out today. Mark had asked me for an update on where we're at with 3 as a whole, between the two, 1E and 2W. If I said it wrong, I'm sorry, but we're about 75% of the way done with the Robert Hour project, Phase 3. So probably still be another year to be able to complete the project because a lot of it is bringing pump stations online, and that project takes a while, but inherently, I think it's important to know we're getting there on 3. We're 75% complete with the project, so.
The only question I'm hearing is when are they gonna pave 39?
Yes, I've heard that quite a bit too, and it will be final paved once we're done. Yeah. So construction activities for Phase 3 during the week of August 24th to 28th will focus.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. John had a question, I didn't see.
Well, it's not so much a question, as I think it needs to be stated as much as possible, because people aren't focusing on that. Pavement becomes a real issue on Cape Cod because you've got one asphalt plant in the south of Massachusetts, and it closes in December, and it does not open until roughly April. So it makes it a challenge to do that and say to people that we're not going to allow you to do anything
the summer.
between July 1st and September 1st. So everyone needs to be a little bit patient. We're working with something that we have no control over.
No, I agree. It is hard with the summer restrictions. I mean, we waived a portion of the summer restrictions back in June to be able to get Pleasant Bay Road done, at least with the first coat, So we're doing our best to try to identify areas like 39 or what would have been Pleasant Bay Road had we not been able to do that. But definitely not going unnoticed, that's for sure. So on Christopher Way, crews will install gravity sewer mains, laterals, and manholes, while Wilma's Way will continue with the installation of gravity sewer mains, laterals, and manholes. Kimberly Way will continue suit along with Victoria Road with the installation of low-pressure sewer along with drainage system work. Roadway restoration will also be in progress. Well, at least we're doing some roadway restoration here in reclamation. For grading and final paving beginning on Williamsburg, Victoria, Fredericks. Reclamation will continue on Chestnut Lane, Maple Lane, Charlene Lane, and Harding Lane in preparation for final paving. During the following week, sewer construction is anticipated to begin on Phillip Court, Scribner Terrace, Halls Way, and Cadwell Lane, while work continues on Christopher's Way, Wilma's Way, and Kimberly Way. Final pavement preparations will continue through reclamation grading and binder operations. So that's our update on Phase 3. Moving on to 3A. We have two different contractors that write these narratives, so they're a little bit different. Construction activities for 3A during the week of the 24th to 28th will focus on drainage improvements, roadway restoration, and investigation work. On Sandy Lane, crews will install drainage systems at the intersection of Beach Plum Circle, followed by temporary paving and loam restoration. Drainage systems will be installed at locations in front of 10 and 29 Quail's Nest Run, and temporary pavement and loam restorations will complete the following week. A second crew will perform test pits along Wales Road, Bobolink, Bluebird, Mockingbird, and Hummingbird, including excavation, backfilling, and paving. No additional project work is currently anticipated for the 31st Labor Day weekend, the 31st to September 4th. Actually, that's this coming weekend, I'm sorry. Looking ahead, gravity sewer installation is scheduled to begin on Wales Road at Lakeway Lane on September 8th, progressing south towards Queen Anne Road. Once the work reaches Queen Anne, gravity sewer main installation is expected to begin September 15th, but we are looking at some drainage work next week on Queen Anne, so we'll post that accordingly. All construction updates, schedules, project information, additional notices for 3 and 3A are available on our website, and we push them out on social media as well. Residents are encouraged to visit the website regularly as the information changes as we get new information.
Mark?
Just one question, Jay. Is the drainage work covered under the sewer contract?
Yes, so 3A was drainage and sewer. So throughout all of 3A, we're going to talk about drainage and sewer work. A big part of the water quality improvement in the ponds was collecting the surface water before it ran into the ponds off Queen Anne. So throughout all of 3A, you'll just keep hearing drainage, sewer, drainage, sewer. It's like we're doing two projects at once, basically.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
That's it, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you very much. Consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, I'd like to remove item B.
B, sure.
As we have Mr. Murphy in the audience.
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I move that we vote to approve the consent agenda as presented in tonight's packet, with the exception of item B.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous.
Mr. Chair, I move that we vote to affirm the town administrator's recommendation of Neil Murphy to the position of Recreation Director, effective no earlier than September 8th, 2026. And Jay wants to...
I have a motion
Second.
and a second.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Neil, do you want to come up to the podium? If they don't vote for you, it's going to be awkward.
That's his lifeguard outfit.
So I have Neil Murphy here is the recommendation for the next rec director for the town of Harwich. Neil brings over 25 years of experience in recreation, athletics, and community programs. Most recently, he was the director of athletics for almost a decade for the Sandwich Public Schools, where he managed budgets, facilities, staffing, and long-range planning. Before that, he spent time in athletics administration at Harvard, including a stint as the assistant director of athletics and assistant director of the Harvard Varsity Club, where he managed multi-million-dollar budgets and coordinated events. He recently ran his own finished carpentry business on Cape Cod, actually quite a bit here in Harwich, so a lot of people recognize him from that, where he's been reminded of the values of community and public service. He holds a master's degree from Springfield College and a bachelor's of science from Westfield State. He stood out in the process because of his experience with unionized personnel and his municipal background, both directly relevant here. Combined with his depth and personnel supervision, he's a strong fit for the position, and I highly recommend the appointment.
Excellent, thank you. How are you doing tonight?
Terrific.
Excellent. You want to
Thank
state, you want to state anything to the board before we take a vote?
Sure. Well, I just wanted to take a second to thank several people, certainly Mr. McGrail and Mr. Mulcahy and everybody that participated. Mr. Handler participated in the process. I'm really looking forward to getting started. I've met a number of great people. I've heard great things about the department as a whole, the people that are involved. And as Jay stated, I've been in Harwich maybe since mid-February working on a big project up the street. So I've gotten to know town, and I'm really looking forward to being a part of it and meeting each of you.
Excellent. Any further discussion from the board? Mark?
May I just ask a question? Neil, welcome aboard.
Thanks, Mark.
I would just say, keep your ears open for shared municipal services. I noticed the rec director is leaving in Orleans now. We have declining populations of young kids, so, not right now, but keep your ears open, that way we consolidate and do some shared services among the towns. I think that's a future opportunity we're gonna need to look at, so.
Yeah, will do. It's something that I remember talking to Leah about. I had a great conversation this morning, in fact, with Leah from the Recreation Commission, but it's a good reminder.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Howell?
Yeah, and likewise, there's a working group of the Lower Cape Rec directors that we have not availed ourselves of through the past few years, but it'd be really nice
Yeah.
if we started engaging, because they bounce ideas off of each other.
Absolutely. Look forward to being a part of it.
Comments down this side?
Hi.
Sir?
I just have a quick comment. The Recreation Department handles more than kids. We have a wonderful sit, fit, and indoor walking group, and you're ahead of it now.
That's right. Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thanks so much.
And
Appreciate it.
Just for the television audience, the comment was that the rec department handles more than just the children in the town, and that is understood by Mr. Murphy. So, any further
I would
comments?
just say, I wouldn't turn your back on Terry too often.
I get the feeling.
Just a thought. But no, I'm all set.
I'm gonna arrange a pizza party for this man so he can meet everybody.
Thank you.
He'll pick you up.
Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Congratulations, welcome aboard.
Terrific. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Gonna dig right into new business, item A?
Yes, Mr. Chair, so we have Ashley Simiton here. She's one of our department heads. She's the Director of Youth and Family Services. Ashley's here to review and update the preschool family support program and talk to us about it. I'll turn it over to Ashley.
Thank you. Hi, everybody.
Hello?
Should have a slideshow here starting in just a moment. So thank you so much. I just wanted to give you a update, including review of last year's program, as well as where we're at kind of heading into the coming school year that's starting in just over a week. 2025-2026 saw us with the opportunity to serve 60 families with 63 children. We had 29 3-year-olds and 34 4-year-olds that were involved in the program. There we go. They attended 16 different preschools located throughout the Lower and Mid-Cape area, including schools here in Harwich, as well as Chatham, Orleans, Brewster, Dennis, Yarmouth, and as far away as Barnstable. So the school that had the most of our children enrolled in it was the Children's Center located on Sisson Road here in Harwich. We also had a number of children that were attending the Rocking Unicorn in Chatham and the Laurel School in Brewster, amongst others, but those were the ones with the largest numbers that we had there. The last 2 years of the program, we have done a kind of split award where we have offered a lower award initially in September with the opportunity to have more children apply and enrolled in the program. So we allocated for up to 100 children last year. When we had less than that, we took the remainder of unawarded funds and divided it equally amongst families. So last year, each child received the initial $2,500 plus an additional $1,468 in January, making their award they were able to use throughout the school year $3,968 towards preschool tuition. Of our 63 children, we had 52 of them that utilized the full award. For kiddos who didn't utilize the full award, it was a variety of different factors. We had some children that were receiving state child care vouchers and didn't need the full amount. Other children were able to get off of the wait list, which is pretty long, to be able to receive a state voucher, and so they no longer needed funding. And then we did have some families that were varying pretty close to that $3,968 mark, but just didn't quite get there with the cost for last year. So all said and done, we spent just under $243,000 of the $250 that had been allocated at town meeting to the program. This past year was my first year kind of solo at the helm, so I wanted to check in with our providers and families in the spring, just kind of see how we're doing and get some information for where we were going from there. So I asked them to please complete a very short, very informal survey. Very informal meaning I did not do any kind of statistical metrics for validity or reliability on questions, just kind of asked, how are we doing? So we had a pretty, I know that numerically these response rates are low, but for a human services related survey of this nature, that's actually pretty good. So basic, first question was just kind of basic star rating that most folks are familiar with. Of our respondees, we had 19 5-star ratings, so we're doing pretty good. We had 1 4-star, 1 3-star, and 1 person opted not to answer that question. The second question was related to that two times in the year award format where we had the initial award in September and an additional one in January. I noticed doing that second award in January that we had some confusion from some of our providers and some of our families. I also wanted to be really mindful that while we do not have a requirement that families utilize all other funding sources before coming to us, other programs do. So some of our families that qualify for other subsidies that are available to them need to kind of gauge when they're going to run out of preschool family support program funds before they can apply to that next one. And having that second award kind of be a little bit up in the air in terms of the amount and the exact timing of it just makes it a little hard for them to be able to budget for that process. But keeping that in mind and not wanting to make unilateral decisions, I did want to check in with our providers and our families to see what their thoughts were on that. For families, which is the one on the left-hand side of your screen, there wasn't much of a difference. 7 of our respondees said to keep it as it was with the two payment process. 8 said to change, and 1 person preferred not to answer, and I'll circle back to that little green bar in just a minute because we have it on the providers as well. On the provider side of things, there were a larger amount of people that said one time would be much easier for them to manage. We had 1 person say to keep it as it was last year, 4 asked it to change, and 1 again, no preference. For our folks that answered with the no preference on that question, their response was that they didn't really care how it was done, just that the program continues. Pretty basic on that. The last question I asked folks was just if there was any additional information that they wanted to report about their experience in the program. A thematic analysis of that kind of yields the following results from highest to lowest. The majority of communications from this survey, as well as communications throughout the year during the program, was gratitude and thanks that this program exists. It does make a difference to our families, which connects directly to number 2. Paying for childcare is expensive. It costs, on average in Massachusetts, for a 3 or 4-year-olds who attend preschool about $15,000 a year. That's a huge chunk of change when you also start factoring in the other costs of living that families are responsible for. So what we're providing with our program here is a small drop in the bucket that just makes it a little bit easier for families to be able to do all of the things that they need to do. So they very much want to see this program continue. The 4th theme that was pretty consistent throughout responses was that the communication and responsiveness for me was very helpful to them in terms of getting additional information or connection to other resources or answers to questions that they have. And then it was a real positive that this program is able to coincide with other funding sources so that it's not a either or, it's an and. So as we head into this year, applications are now available. The application became available on the town website on August 5th. Families can apply through the town website. The easiest way to get there is if you have a flyer in front of you to go ahead and use that QR code that's on the flyer. If you don't have that in front of you, if you go to the main website, main homepage of it, if you use the search bar at the top, type the word preschool in, and then hit search, it'll be the first returned result that you get from there. Our flyers and applications this year are available in English, Brazilian Portuguese, Spanish, and Haitian Creole. Many thanks to our school district folks who were able to help me understand which languages we need to make sure that we're translating materials into so our families are able to really access as much as they can. This year, we are going to shift to a one-time award and see how that works for us, so a larger amount in September. It will be less overall than it was last year, just because our funding decreased for going into this year from $250,000 down to $220,000. But each child is going to be able to receive $3,384 towards preschool, being able to use that between September and June of this year. Applications can be returned directly to me either via email or mail is fine too. Folks are also welcome to drop off at Albro House. If I'm not available and town hall is open, our town administrator's office has been kind enough to be a backup drop-off location for us, just to make it a little easier for folks. And any questions or anything are welcome to reach out to me directly. Happy to answer them. And that's all I have. So I don't know if you have any questions or any other information I can get for you.
Anybody on the board? Mark?
I did see that in the survey that the providers and the families didn't like the dual payments. You're saying you're gonna do the one payment, which is good.
Correct.
How do you reach families that don't get the newspaper or they're not in the public school system? How do you get the word out? I mean, this is a great program. How do you get the word out that this is available for them?
So the flyers are sent out to a number of different places, yes, including the schools and various newsletters. It's also in social media. It's announced on the town website, I believe, through the, I think it's through the news and events page. It also goes out through the network of preschool providers that we have. Cape Cod's Children's Place is very good about sharing information and helping kind of pass that along. So it's a number of different ways. We currently have had about a little over 30 applications that have been brought in so far. I can take up to 65 for this year. And so what typically happens is when I go to things like curriculum nights at the schools or other community events, being able to kind of promote it that way. So it's a variety of different ways of getting that information to folks.
Great program. Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Hanlon?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You certainly know your stuff.
Thanks.
I don't even think you took one breath. From the time the first slide hit until you said, well, that's it.
That's it.
Pretty impressive. Your first year taking this on, I recognize and remember how difficult it was for us to try to find somebody who would take this on. So I think the whole town thanks you for that, and I'll speak for the whole town on that. Now, I do have, I don't know if it's a question or I'm a little troubled by the one payment, right? And please, tell me if I'm missing something here, because I'm looking more for clarity than, I don't want to be right here, but if you're hoping for last year you were hoping for 100 kids. You got 60 kids. That allowed you to then fund those 60
Correct.
with more funds. So this year, you're going to give 65 kids $3,300 and whatever dollars. Is that because you do not expect more than 65 kids that you're making this change? Or is this because you're listening to these people who are telling you, just give us one payment?
No, great question. So it's a combination of factors. So just overview and review, I guess, of how the whole program works. So families are awarded the amount that they're able to utilize throughout the year. Providers invoice us monthly for whatever their tuition cost is going to be, and we just kind of keep deducting from that child's amount. So when I looked back through the data from inception of the program in 2023 to last year, the maximum number of children that we've ever had enrolled in the program was, I believe, 65. So we've typically averaged in the low 60s for number of children. So what I was looking at this year was, yes, that feedback and trying to avert some confusion. But what I was also looking at is the decrease in funding and wanting to maximize the amount that I can give to families so that they're able to really feel that this is helping, and arrived at these numbers.
I should have known you did your homework. I'm not going to ask her anything else.
Great question, though.
I'm very happy with the answer. Thank you.
The only thing that I have to say is that I know one of the families that have taken part of this program, and they are so grateful that it's available to them and how much it really helps young families. And I commend you for all the work that you've been doing. Thank you very much.
Good.
Just one thing, because it was an issue that kept hanging on. I really appreciate your time and effort in this, because there was a point in time we were looking at hiring a firm to assist us, and I think the point I would like to make again is that your participation in this has actually helped continue to fund, because my view of this program was it's about funding kids getting an opportunity in a preschool, not funding somebody who's looking for an opportunity for a job.
Yes. So I actually am, Julie Groom had managed this prior to it landing in Youth and Family Services. I actually lobbied to have this program come to my department, a little selfishly, but this allows me to start to get to know children and families a lot earlier in children's lives than waiting for them to hit elementary school. So this has been a really great opportunity for me to be able to start getting to know families, for them to start getting to know me, and it did result in some referrals to different area services for other needs last year, and I anticipate that happening again this year. So it's been a wonderful thing to be able to be a part of.
Well, thank you for your efforts.
Excellent, actually appreciate it, and to echo Mr. Handler's words, I appreciate how quickly you speak, yet it's clear, intelligent, and relevant, so thank you for all of that. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Have a great
Good
evening.
job, Ashley.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Going to move along to the Monomoy Regional Middle School project update. We have Superintendent Millen and Assistant Superintendent McMillan with us this evening. Welcome, folks.
Thank you.
Good evening, Select
Good
Board.
evening, folks.
Good evening.
We also have
Mr. McManus,
Manis,
nice to see you.
who's one of the co-chairs of the School Building Committee, along with Peter Troy from Chatham. So we had been invited to give you an update on our construction project that's ongoing at the Monomoy Regional Middle School. So the replacement of the siding, trim and windows, which was supported by the Select Board and the people of Harwich, and for which we're very grateful. And we recently had the Capital Outlay Committee came to take a tour of the building and see the progress we're making. So I'm going to give you a little bit of some progress updates as well as superintendent, and feel free to weigh in at any point. So the project is, it's progressing, not quite as quickly as we would like, but it's moving along. The building is starting to look really nice from the outside. You can see a lot of the siding, the new windows. It's much improved position from where it was. And also on the inside, we're starting to see more and more rooms are completed with the windows done, the
Trim.
the trim, the
Sills.
thanks very much. I'll act out. Yeah. Painting.
Shades.
So that's all going. So it's all. I think we will look back and say it all went really well. It's just at the moment, in the thick of things, it's a complicated project. There's a lot of challenges, as we knew there would be. There's several subcontractors involved. I think there were, how many people on the site yesterday, did they say?
Well, there's 24 on Saturday and about equal amount yesterday and Sunday.
I said there were something like 40, I think, on
40
today. So a lot of people that, people on the outside doing trim, windows, painting, blinds, ceiling tiles. So a lot of things happening. As I say, it's not been without challenge. We have had, as we knew we would, we've run into mold in some places. Things where it was, damaged insulation or anything like that, it was just, tossed and replaced with new clean insulation. We have found some instances of drywall, where there is mold in the drywall, and that's a little more involved because we have to remove the drywall, and we do that under sort of controlled environment to avoid a mold leaking into the wider environment. So that has been a challenge, and typically a lot of the areas we discovered at the very end of the demolition. So we kind of progressed with like 3/4 of the demolition, found a couple of spots of mold that required work, and in the last quarter of demolition we found 6 or 7 additional spots. So that was unfortunate and really put a lot of pressure on our timeline. And so the work is now going. So what we did find is what we had expected. We came and talked to you multiple times about what we were finding in the building before we started, and what we expected was to find lots of mold all over the building, but in small amounts. But what we actually found was fewer places, but in those places it was larger amounts. So a couple of square feet of mold of a drywall would have to removed. So that's what we've been dealing with. So the work is ongoing to do that. And it's not an easy process, of course, to remove and replace that drywall. So that's been kind of a involved process with us and the general contractor and our environmental consultant to ensure, the building and environment remains safe for everybody who's in it. But that work's now ongoing. We have one big issue we've run into is in the gym, the main gym. So there's one wall of the gym was the original building, and when the new building was constructed, a kind of just another wall was built against that one, and there's a cavity in the middle, and in that cavity we found a lot of mold, and so that's requiring a significant demolition project inside the gym to essentially rebuild the wall. So everything's coming down, the wood framing inside will be rebuilt, all cleaned up properly, and the wall rebuilt on top of it. So that's a significant project that is not going to be done within the next month. That's probably going to be a couple of months work that's going to take. So that's a challenge. We are just
so we had our budget, when the budget came in for this project, so we have about 11.5 million approved debt for this project. The original bids came in and set the project at around and don't quote me on these figures, but around 9.6 million. With all the changes, because of the mold, particularly the gym, that's the most expensive. We are going to be slightly above that project cost, which included a contingency, but we are still well below that total debt approval that we received from the board and the town. And it's the one nice thing about where we are now is all the demo's done. So, knock on wood, we know all our problems. It was like, there was a lot of uncertainty through the summer when you would be waiting for the next thing, as the old siding was coming off, you're waiting to see what's been found and how much bigger things are going to get. At this point, we know everything. And so we have a greater degree of certainty of where the project final budget is going to come in. So seems like we'll still be well below that initial debt approval, which is good. I want it to be lower because it's still money. I still have to pay it, or we still have to pay it. District still has to pay it, but it's I can sleep at night because it's not going to be anywhere clear that debt approval. And
Did we have a picture?
We had one picture.
It's in the packet. I'm not sure if he has it though, unfortunately.
It just kind of gives you a sense of we replaced all the plywood underneath the siding. We then completely covered the building in the blue waterproofing. So it's like the building's wrapped. It's incredible. And then the siding went on top, and the windows. And actually, the windows are tested. So the windows, we've tested a proportion of the windows, and they're tested before the siding even goes on. So just once the building's wrapped with the siding and with the window, and the trim, that's when the window's tested. And so the siding on top of that is just in addition. So it's just really reassures us that the windows are going to be watertight. And when we get the roof done next year, the whole building will be watertight.
So as we were progressing through the project, we were meeting weekly, the school building committee, thank you, Mark Kelleher and Mr. McManus, for being on those. I've also been meeting regularly to keep up to date on progress, and we are meeting with our owner's project manager, as well as the general contractors, to make sure that our sequence of events and what we were doing made sense. And again, what we had started on a sequence where we thought the front of the building and the side of the building would be our most impacted area, so we started on that early in the spring and into the summer, due to test cuts and trial and what we were looking at and what we were thinking about, potential problems that would hold up or delay that project. It turned out those areas were mostly fine, and the project derailed towards the back of the building. So, which was the end phase, in the courtyard, and where we're having the most difficulty. So at this moment in time, I know most of you know this by now, but I have delayed school. The general contractor came to us late Thursday afternoon. On Tuesday of last week, on 10 o'clock, we were sure we were going to be okay in the timeline of entering school and getting our staff into the buildings this week, and then children into the buildings September 1st and 2nd. Seemed okay, even though with our eyes we weren't so sure, but I'm not a general contractor. Michael's not, we were talking, and even the school building committee was like, are you sure? And everybody's saying, yes, we're sure. And then they came to us Thursday afternoon and said, no, we need another week. So general contractor came to us, and for us, our most important part of being in our roles is that we have a safe, engaging, and learning environment for our students. And an environment that's not just, okay, you're coming in, you're gonna go play out in the fields, and we're gonna have 2 days of fun or whatever. But not that school's not fun. But we need to make sure that schools are learning environments. So, because every minute matters when we're talking about a student's education, and we don't want to waste the days and have them moving classrooms or doing things that are being in other buildings. So when the information came to us that we needed to have that building to the general contractors this week, that meant the staff was delayed for 2 days. So theoretically, we could have had our children in the building September 1st, which is their start date, but our staff would not have, our educators would not have time. Our custodians wouldn't have had time to thoroughly clean their part of it. The building project has a cleaning crew as well, but our custodians needed to do some of the summer work that they weren't able to do during this project. So stripping floors, waxing floors, those type of things. So by delaying staff entrance to the 1st and the 2nd of September, and then delaying student entrance to the 3rd, it gives our custodian crew time over the weekend. They worked 24.
Oh, yeah, 24 hours.
Almost
longer.
30
Yeah.
hours. Our own crew did this weekend alone.
Yeah.
That gives them next weekend to put in those double shifts as well, and then Monday to just button us up. And then our educators will come back on the 1st and 2nd to get their classroom preps done, so they can do nice bulletin boards, make sure the desks are in the places they want, all the resources are ready for them to go, and to do the most important part of it is the lesson planning and the beginning of the school, relationship building, community building lessons that they need to design. So again, we made the difficult conversation. We had a long conversation about delaying school. We are only delaying school for the middle school, and it will be 2 days. And those 2 days that students are delayed will be tacked on in June. So they'll get their first full 180 days of school. This, unfortunately, that means some families have different start dates and have different end dates, but it has the least, we felt, impact on the whole and a better learning environment for the students that are in that building.
Ed, anything you want to chime in?
Well, I just want to sort of comment on the nature of the building committee. It's been an amazing group of folks to work with. The number of people that have a good, solid foundation in one form or another of the building trades has made our ability to stay on top of the contractor and sort of understand what's real and what's not real. I'll politely put it that way. So we were, we got to the point down here where, we could have kept with the same schedule with staff and students, but it would have meant them having to sort of close down, clean up. The district staff come in and clean up, move furniture in, and then unwrap that for the weekend, and then have to do it all again. And the amount of days that would be lost to the contractor, rather than just working straight through, was pretty critical, and they were so close on so many of the rooms. They'll be down to mainly a lot of things that we might call sort of touch-up on, doing the final touch-up painting around the windows. There's some issues with the ceilings and how the blinds retract up into them that have to be worked on. And we're waiting for that. At one point, we were waiting for some equipment to come in to do that. But at this point, all of that stuff is not something that's going to really interrupt in the classroom once the kids arrive. So it can wait until the weekend or after 4 o'clock on school days for the contractor and his men to come in. We feel that, it was a good decision on our part. It was sort of a benefit to the contractors, and so as we get down to the final mix and look at the final changeovers, we're expecting some in-kind give and take on their part, so.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
From the board? Rita?
No, the only thing I had, you answered my question, I think you saw my face, was are the kids gonna have to make up those days of school? As a parent, I would have thought, wait a minute, are they gonna have to make up them? And you answered my question. Thank you very much. No, but you guys have done a great job. Thank you.
Mr. Howell? Jump chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know the feel-good part, and I appreciate everything you said, but Michael brought up something that I just want to pin down on the financial end.
Yeah.
If it comes in at less than the project cost,
Unless-
I know that you borrow the money and you borrow the money. It's,
Well, so we've actually not borrowed, we've borrowed up to the original project cost. We didn't borrow $11.5 million. We budgeted 9.5 million.
so there is no
So-
residual other than the residual capacity.
Exactly. It's, and we're
Just
just actually
wondering if
just
it was floating into
Yeah.
excess and deficiency or something.
Yeah, no, we're not allowed to do that, sadly.
I thought you'd ask that.
I haven't asked anything yet.
Just one question. I know the roof's coming up next year. How
Yeah.
is the roof right now? Will you be able to get another year out of it without
Yeah.
damaging
Yeah,
the work that you've done?
There is a lot of work, there is, So because, you know, there is siding above the roof line, so we have people up on our roof right now doing siding, which is not ideal, you know, having construction on your roof. And so that has put on a lot of pressure on a roof that was already not in great shape. So our facilities director, Matt Kova, is doing a great job. He was up there with a vendor today trying to get some options to how we just limp through to the end of the school, to the end of, to July, June of next year. So with what we've got, so it's a work in progress, I guess, is the answer to them.
Really, building committee did a great
Yeah,
job. You
building
guys
committee's
did a
great.
job, so congratulations. Good.
So, and, you know, this is, the building committee will continue in place, oversee
Yeah.
that was sort of, you know, when Scott asked each of us to join the building committee, it was, for the siding project, and then, oh, by the way.
I
this
told them I
is
would
coming
survey
up,
them
and it
to
was
see if
sort
they
of,
wanted to stay on.
Yeah, it is voluntary, so we might have to persuade them.
Having, you know, been on the, town's comprehensive plan that went on and on and on, I'm like, oh Christ, what did I get myself into? But I and all the members of the committee are happy to do it, and I feel, they feel a great sense of contribution to the town, lending their expertise, so.
Excellent, thanks. I am gonna go back to the budget thing for a minute, just because I'm trying to understand it. And I'm just using the 9.5,
Yeah,
doesn't matter
yeah,
what the
that's
hell it is.
perfect. Yeah,
Are you saying that the gym wall
yep.
is going to be covered within the 9.5, or are you gonna have to exceed the 9.5?
Going to exceed
So
the
are you gonna,
9.5.
are you gonna touch 10, probably?
I don't think so.
Somewhere between 9.5 and
Yeah.
10 to get that
Yeah,
wrapped
the
up?
last time, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we're not there yet.
Yeah,
But
understood.
yeah, at the moment, with everything we know, we should be under 10.
And I understand you have the capacity to go to 11,
Yeah,
whatever, so,
exactly.
yeah.
But-
We were very concerned, and
Yeah.
we're starting to see the preliminary
Yeah.
quotes, but again, you know, that's just very preliminary, so.
Yeah. And so the slippage in schedule is really attributed to the findings as they went along and did the
So
demolition?
it's complicated, and that is something we kind of need to work out with our project team, because, you know, in theory, you know, so work can be ongoing, but when you discover these projects, yes, you can keep going in some other area, but it just slows everybody down when there's like a whole area of the building that has to be put aside while you wait. So it's a little bit of yes and. So it is largely because of the complexities, but we're not, we have to work that
And I
out.
think the number of subcontractors, because some people are just coming in and doing certain things.
Sure.
And when they're not able to
Yeah.
move in that way, it's then stalling them. And there's a point in a project where you can send them to other locations somewhat through the project, but then at some point in the project, there's nowhere else to send them.
Yeah.
Sure.
And to be clear, we'll have 6 classrooms offline at the start of the school year that have that kind of complexity, but the building itself is not at full usable capacity. I mean, teachers like to sprawl and educators like to use rooms that
Space.
maybe, so like we broke down the curriculum offices, that will go back as a classroom. We broke down the business office, that will go back as a classroom. So we have flex space that we are able to use, but it still gets to the point where when the people are coming in to do the sills, if the sills aren't ready, that stalls the project, you
Sure.
know, so.
And so overall, getting back to that comment about the subcontractors, right? Your GC basically subs everything out.
Yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing. A lot of
Yeah.
the GCs do it today.
Yeah, yeah.
So realizing that, has the GC had difficulty actually getting the subs, or are they just, I won't go on, I see responses coming, so,
Well,
Well,
I'm not sure,
It
You know.
depends, I think,
depending on which sub,
yeah.
which skills, which trade.
right.
and, you know, and it also depends on what's led up to needing more subs, like, you know, you get to a window and you take it apart and you find, okay, there's drywall that has to come off, and in taking off the drywall, we take off the baseboards, and that damages some of the floor tile, so we need to take that up and repair that. Oops, under the floor tile, there's mastic that has asbestos in it, so then we need to go and get the subcontractor that's gonna remove and certify that you know, so there's, as you get into one of these problem areas, it sort of multiplies the number of different trades and people and certifications you need to bring in, and that's been a problem.
Yeah, no, and I agree, and again, I'm not trying to disparage the GC, I don't know the folks at all, but that's something that needs to be evaluated as other projects come up, right? Because if this particular one struggles to get certain subs, then, and others may not, depending on the size and relationships, but that's all I was trying to
This is an
understand.
ongoing and current contract, so I don't want to comment on any individual contractor.
Again,
GC,
right.
But we have learned a lot from this project. Like, I keep a running list of things to discuss with the next project team, you know, to make sure we're on top of things, so we're prepared for eventualities when they come up.
Sure. Oh, excellent. All right, anything else? Terry?
Is there indoor air quality testing being done?
Yes.
Yes,
And it's been okay?
yes.
Well,
It's, yeah, I mean,
No
so,
mold or anything?
air quality testing is a hot topic, and we are really keen to make sure that the air quality is as good as it can be. We, as you know, there is mold at this time of year, there's mold everywhere. So we do testing inside and outside the building, and the outside is a control. And the testing outside was really high because it was the middle of summer. It was a particularly humid week, and the testing inside the building was high. We didn't see, like, there were a couple of areas where it was a little higher inside than we'd like to see, and we're getting sort of industrial air scrubbers in those areas to make sure the air is as clean as it can be, given that we have windows
Do you
open.
have air purifiers with
Yeah.
HEPA filters
So we-
and charcoal pre-filters,
Yeah, we
et
have.
cetera?
We have HEPA air filters in every classroom, so,
Okay.
and we
Okay,
have other
thank you.
things, do have some charcoal and stuff.
The other thing about the air quality is that these windows were, everything
Yeah.
was wide open. That entire
Literally,
building was
yeah.
literally wide open, and when it wasn't wide open, we had plywood closing, so it was like wide open during the day and closed at night. So it's just a matter of just getting air through that building and movement through the building.
Excellent. All right, folks, well, we appreciate you coming in.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
appreciate
We
the
appreciate
update.
you coming back Thursday, too.
Yes.
We are coming back
Budget
Thursday.
Can't wait.
Spending a lot of time with you. And thank you again to the school building committee.
Agreed, thank you. All right, folks, we're gonna, in the interest of time, jump right on to C. Discussion vote on the updates of the hazard mitigation plan. Mr.
Thank you
McGrath.
very much, Mr. Chair. Have Christine here to answer some questions. We asked her not, in the interest of time, we asked her not to put a presentation together, and I'm gonna explain
Just gonna read
why.
the whole thing.
I'm going to explain why. So just wanted to do a quick history on the board's, the process with the hazardous mitigation plan and what leads us to tonight. So back in December 2025, so last December, the Select Board unanimously authorized Christine Flynn. They voted, this board voted to authorize Christine to submit the final hazardous mitigation plan to FEMA and MEMA. The commission, the Cape Cod Commission, and the hazardous mitigation planning team had helped her with developing the plan, and she submitted that plan. On July 30th, 2026, FEMA granted final approval for our 2026 hazardous mitigation plan, so that process has been completed. Having a certified plan is critical to the town's rating under the Community Rating System Incentive Program and can influence flood insurance premium for Harwich residents. So this is important for the residents of the town, and that's why. It ultimately helps their flood insurance. So the approval that we received in July required 3 additional items to be added to the report, which you have in front of you. First, and Christine has completed these over the last few months. The groundwater section covers, they wanted us to include in the groundwater section covering risk from sea level rise, flooding, drought, and extreme participation. She completed that. Prioritizing criteria for the mitigation strategy action items. And then finally, the capabilities assessment, identifying the town's ability to expand and improve, including fundings and staff limitations we have in place. Finally, estimated costs for the mitigation strategy action items number 1 through 13 were also updated. All of that work has been completed, and the plan is now before the Select Board for formal adoption and signature based on the July 30th approval we received from FEMA. So with that, Christine's, like I said, didn't ask her to put together a presentation, but just be here to answer any questions that the board has.
Christine, would you like to make a comment before we take a vote?
Yes, just thank you for the opportunity, and this is a great, as Jay said, this is a critical plan for the town. It's a huge benefit, and it enables the town to be eligible for state and federal funding. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions. But I do also want to make sure that this was a team effort. The hazard mitigation planning team was largely made up of department heads, and this would not have been possible without their input, their participation, as well as the Cape Cod Commission. Martha Heavner did a fantastic job pulling everything together. So this was a wonderful team effort. So thank you very much for your time and your support.
Excellent, appreciate that. To the board?
Just one question, one comment. I kept looking for the executive summary. So I didn't have to read so much. But anyways, I just bring it up just for future reference. On the Herring River Jetty on the west side, there's about a 150-foot long wall that I think was built on top of the jetty by the Army Corps of Engineers back during the Depression to protect the dunes. Now, that 150-foot wall, about half of it has fallen down. So I just wanted to keep that in mind for future reference, because if the dunes go, there's cabanas behind that for the Belmont. That's taxable property. So it's just something to consider down the road. So that's all I want to say. Thank you. But great report.
Thank you.
So it's a 75-foot wall.
I don't know.
Don, anything?
Just to thank you, Christine, and for the whole team that was involved. This is obviously a really comprehensive and deep dive project. So appreciate all the effort.
Thank you very much.
Nita?
No comment. Thank you very much, though, for all your work.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. So, yes, thank you for all your work and your team's work. Where do we stand with the actual mapping of the floodplain? That's like a living document. And I don't want to take a ton of time on this, but are we in process of remapping, or have we remapped, or where do we stand with this?
So as of right now, the state has digitized maps, so there is a process to update those maps, but not at this time. So the maps that are available at the state, at MEMA, are the flood maps that are currently applicable to any property when you're looking to do any change or any elevation. Those are the maps that identify the floodplain.
What's current is in play for a while.
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Please.
one more thing to add, just to kind of tie everything that we do touches something else that we do. One of the highlighted items from Standards and Poor during our bond rating call was our preparation with sea level rise. And we were able to reference the hazardous mitigation plan and actually submit the draft to Standards and Poor, and they commented in the rating report about it. So everything does touch something else, you know.
Yeah, well said, thank you. Go ahead.
I was going to make a motion, but.
Go ahead. I'm just going to make one brief comment after the motion.
Sure. I'd like to move that we approve the hazard mitigation plan as presented in our packet.
Full signature?
Second?
For whose signature?
I think the chair's signature.
That's what I
Full
said.
board, full board.
Yeah.
And I have a second from Mr. Kelleher's. Any further discussion? My only brief comment is on the easy for me to find it again. Is the groundwater recharge, and I'm not getting into to the document itself, but one of the things that I've talked about a few different times here is the recharge when we're sending our wastewater to other municipalities, and it's not coming back to us. And not only, and I know there's going to be a greater discussion, but not only coming back to us, but where it comes back to us as well is important. But anyway, the document itself, I think, is well done, and certainly I appreciate the efforts of all involved to help craft this. So thank you for that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. Item D is the discussion and vote on the interview committee process. What I will say up front to my colleagues is, as I said the other day, this is gonna, we had 7 or so recommendations submitted to the board for consideration, and we're gonna keep the topic onto the agenda item. So I will open it up to my colleagues for discussion as I try to find it in my page, but who would like to kick off a discussion on this?
Suggestion, if I may, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
Why don't we take, I think Natasha did a heck of a job putting together some information on the packet. I gotta scroll through 644 pages to get to it.
When you find the page.
Yeah, okay, yeah. It's, we're on page 302 of our packet.
Thank you.
Yes. There's, you know, as you said, seven
Recommendations,
questions,
yeah.
right? Maybe we can take them one at a time.
Yep.
But I'll just say, at the end of this, I would like either, and I'm kind of positive, we're not going to come up with the final process that we're gonna follow. But maybe in the following meeting, we can come up with a better process. So, yeah, maybe we could start with item number one, which is, should the interview committee meetings be videotaped? If that's okay with the board, to have a quick discussion on that and see where everyone lands.
Absolutely. Happy to have it. Do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, sure. You know, I understand and I recognize the pros and cons of interviewing, you know, potential volunteers of the town. I'm sensitive to the fact that we may lose qualified individuals because of their maybe adverse thought to being interviewed for a volunteer position. On the flip side of that pancake, I would say that we just had Patrick Otten, David Spitz, Matt Supfin, and we've interviewed people here for volunteer positions multiple times in this chamber with the video. So I would say I don't know where I land on that. Very interested in hearing the rest of the board's positions. But, you know, from a quality control standpoint, I would absolutely like to be able to view the interview committee meetings prior to making a vote. Now, for the most part, I would say that our interview committee brings recommendations to the board, and it's kind of like we did tonight. It's part of the consent agenda. We're putting the onus on the interview committee to bring forward the right people, unbiased, and not bring forward people who may not fit. But I take the interview committee applicants and appointments seriously. And I would, in the recent light of what's happened, I would like to see those videos. I would like to see the videos of the interviews. Now, if my colleagues feel differently, I'm gonna obviously support what this board wants, but I felt I wanted to make my case as to the pros and the cons, and then the ultimate why I would like to see the actual interviews take place. Thank you.
Thank you. Anita?
I've thought an awful lot about this process, and, you know, I will agree with Mr. Handler. At some point, we have people that are going to try to volunteer for these committees, but are they going to be intimidated having to be sitting in front of a camera to go through an interview process on how they're going to be performing or what their role is going to be sitting on a board? I'm kind of like balanced with that. If one of the select board or anyone would be interested in coming and seeing the meetings, they're more than welcome to come into a meeting and listen to how people are being interviewed. Ultimately, I guess it would be just something that we'd all have to decide on, but I'm kind of on the fence with this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Kelleher?
Sure. You know, well, I've only been on this board for 1 year, but up in,
Your mic is pointed
oh, I'm
that
sorry.
way.
I didn't want you to hear a word I said. No, I've been on this board for 1 year. I think the interview process has worked fine. I think myself personally, if I was to volunteer for a committee and it sounded good, but I may get asked questions that I may not have good answers for, I may make a fool of myself. I don't see why that should be memorialized on video. So you know, once someone gets on a board and they have that responsibility, then we know that all our committees are videotaped. I don't think for the initial process that that's a good idea to videotape it, because again, some people, we want to encourage people to come forward, but we also don't want to put them in a position where, for example, they could be on YouTube for the rest of their life, and an enemy could say, hey, look at this guy, look what a fool he made in front of an interview committee. So I don't think it's needed, and I'd be against that. Thank you.
Mr. Howell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to start off with a statement or a comment from our legal counsel where she said, I believe that videotaping these meetings would have a chilling effect on the pool of applicants, was what she said. I want to point out that the interview committee neither has the authority or ability to appoint anybody, nor does it have the authority or ability to not appoint somebody. And I guess the answer to Mr. Handler's point is, if nobody's satisfied with the recommendations, there's nothing that would preclude the board from saying, I'd like to go back and maybe I could participate in a second round of interviews with them. It doesn't there is no finality to anything that the committee does, nor do they do it as one person on their own. There's always two people that are involved in that process. Mr. Hendler was doing it last year. I know Mr. McCaskill has made comments about it, but this is the way this has been done. It's been done this way for quite a while, and part of the reason is that, again, Mark's comment is probably apropos of this, is that there are a lot of people, I'm one of them, I wouldn't, as an applicant, put in for anything if I found that I was going to wind up being videotaped and it was going to be in somebody's library forever. If there's a problem, then it can be addressed by remediation. The board could either do a group interview, or we could ask the committee to go back and do a second interview, because we are posting them, we're just not videotaping them. And I did, by the way, read the minutes part. I don't want to jump around, but to legal counsel, and she thought that that was a sufficient characterization for the purpose of minutes. I did start with Anita and I two meetings ago, actually inserting a characterization of what the meeting was, when it occurred, how long each interview was, and basically what the questions revolved around. So I wouldn't support the videotape either, because I just don't think that, I think it's something like hitting an ant with a hammer. Ultimately, I'm not sure that it actually does anything.
All right, thank you for that. You know, I think I'm going to probably drop all my cards on the table right now, where I've gone back and forth over all of these. In fact, I submitted a couple of these recommendations, and I struggle to really find a need for any change at this point. Can anything be improved or made better? Sure, but I guess I don't sit here with a true issue with how it's been done historically and how it's done today, as far as the process goes. I think one of the changes we made, and I don't recall when it was made, but getting information on all of the candidates, not just say there's two openings, getting the names of the two people that were interviewed, we get the information of the others. So again, I think it's a healthy debate, but I think as I go through this, and I've gone through it several times in my head, I just can't convince myself that many of these things, if any, are needed at this time, but that's just me throwing all my cards on the table right now. Happy to entertain a motion if anybody wants to make one, and happy to move along to item 2 if that's what we prefer.
Mr. Chair, I'm comfortable with the board's position on the videotape.
Sure. Appreciate that.
I don't feel the need to even belabor it anymore.
Yeah.
I will ask just for a point of clarification,
please.
if I could.
Please.
Ms. Doucette mentioned that if another select board wanted to come and watch the meeting, I don't know if that becomes quorum, and that's okay. Is that okay?
It's posted, yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
It's a
posted
posted
meeting.
meeting, so 3 select board members can be in there
Absolutely.
at one time.
Absolutely.
Because it is posted, yeah.
Then that makes
Yeah.
the whole videotape thing for me almost go away, right?
But I get your point, the convenience of it, you know.
And then, just one more point of
Yeah, please.
clarification. Mr. Howell, you mentioned that the interview committee does not have the ability to appoint or not appoint. Is that what you said earlier?
Absolutely. It's two people, and it can either bring forward recommendations in favor of or against, but as you know, because you've actually made motions, you can override that at the actual board level, because that's where the decision is made, not at the
I totally
committee.
understand that, but there was a 4th person that you interviewed that did not make your list for this evening.
They were disqualified for a couple of reasons, and for the same reasons that I take the advice from legal counsel, I'm not going to drag them into.
And I don't want to get into the why.
Should you want to go and re-interview them yourself or talk to them, that would be fine. I mean, because anybody does have the ability to do that.
This is the clarification I'm looking for, I think. So I think the interview committee does have the power to not appoint by not recommending or bringing that person forward. Then it would become incumbent upon the select board to then dive into the process and say, I want to know more. And that is, I think, what you're saying, and I believe that's appropriate. And I think I personally will have to do a better job of knowing when the interview committee meets, who's going to be on it, because it's definitely not on the radar. It was on the radar when I was on it, of course, but when you're not on it, it becomes like, oh, the interview committee met, because I know because we have recommendations on the agenda. So.
And it's posted.
No, and I'm not disputing that, and I wholeheartedly agree with you on that, so we can move on from the video.
Well, and I think just to touch on your point, Mr. Handler, I think the word I would use is they have the ability to influence, right? Not necessarily, they don't get to decide, but they certainly have the ability to influence.
Sure.
So, but to your
Call
point-
it that way is
yeah.
fine for me.
But to your point, if we stay more cognizant of who's there and when they are, we could, all have a little bit more understanding of what's going on.
It is an important, it's a
Extremely,
very important
extremely.
position. I mean, it does shape the character of the town of Harwich.
Extremely. And the only thing I'll state, and I don't know if it's one of these or not. Well, I guess I can wait till we talk about reappointments. I'll wait till that point. So we can move on to number 2.
So the minutes are being kept now,
Yes.
and they're appropriate minutes for,
It's the one that's included in tonight's packet.
I mean, personally, I'd like to see a little bit more in there, but if that's where we're gonna land, then I can always ask questions on top of the minutes. So, understand. So, for me, number 3 is the one that I'd like to drill down on. 4, 5, 6, and 7, I think we can kind of cruise through.
Yep.
But number 3 is definitely the one that I would like to, discuss. And I think, if I may continue, Mr. Chair.
Please.
The item in our packet is a little off from what I was looking for, right? And just for the public, it states, recusal for family members on reappointment lists. Under the current reappointment process, the interview committee reviews the reappointment list, followed by the full board via email, followed by a placement on a select board agenda for approval. A board member has a family member on the reappointment list, should that member be required to recuse themselves from voting on the list. I was looking at it from a bit of more broad, right? So if there's any intersection between anyone on the interview committee and any direct family member that's on a board, commission, or committee, I do not believe that person should be hearing or in any way, shape, or form intersecting with that board, commission, or committee. And, in the interest of time, I'll be succinct. The question I would pose to the board is, do you feel it's appropriate for a select board member who is on the interview committee to act independently and summons one of the town's committee members to the interview committee for a discussion of any kind? That's what happened, in my opinion. And while it might not be what would be considered a textbook legal conflict of interest, which I would agree, there's gray area there, I would like the board to consider the optics. I think it just doesn't look right for someone on the interview committee to be weighing in on any commission or board or committee that involves their direct relative. And I think and after the historical mess that we've been in, I personally would like to do everything that this board can do to prevent that from happening again. And it's a simple, hey, my so-and-so, my spouse, my brother, my cousin is on the board that we're talking about. So I'm gonna recuse myself, and I'd like Mr. Kelleher or Mr. Handler to sit in. And I say that because it's the two of you on the interview committee right now. I think that would go a long way for the optics and the transparency. You know, there were three very recent committee issues that I can point to where the process was followed perfectly. And, you know, Mr. Howell was involved in all three of those. Where there was a formal complaint that was made that I can point to, that initiated the process. Conduct and behavior were 2 out of the 3 referrals, and the entire board was informed. Public meetings happened, and we moved it forward. As I sit here now, and I do not want to go back and relitigate everything, but as I sit here now, I look at the problem and I'm trying to find the solution. We still don't know if there was a formal complaint made about the Board of Health member who resigned. If there was, none of us have seen it. None of us have been informed about it. Don't know who made the complaint. And then the interview committee member went and acted independently, quietly I might add, to bring that person before the interview committee. And as I stated a month and a half ago, I didn't know on the interview committee I had that power. I didn't know that I had the power to just go and take a board committee or commission member that I found was doing something that I didn't like, or somebody told me about that they didn't like, and just bring them to the interview committee. I don't believe that is the right process. I still can't figure out how it would have ended up, because at some point, Mr. Howell, you would have had to have brought this person's name forward, and you've already mentioned behavioral issues multiple times. That might have sufficed if you just said to the board, I would like to remove so-and-so because there was a formal complaint, and here's what I'd like to do, and bring them to the interview committee. I would have been 100% in support of that. What caught me by surprise is that I learned about it literally the day of our meeting, one day before he was supposed to go before the interview committee. So I will go on record to say that I will not support allowing a member of this board whose spouse or direct family member sits on a committee, commission, or board to interact with that board whatsoever. I think it is a bad precedent. I think we had an abuse of power, and I don't want to see it happen again. That's my position on that, and I'm willing to answer questions or clear up my position if need be.
Thank you. Anita?
Well, the only thing that I can think of is I looked at the website for the Board of Selectmen, the Select Board. I'm sorry, I'm so used to saying Board of Selectmen. On that, it says here, the Board of Selectmen interview procedures for appointments to various boards, committees, and commissions. Now, this was adopted June 30th, 2008, okay? The next, if you notice in our packet, this appointments and reappointments to the boards, committees, and commissions was adopted January 30th, 2012. The next one I found was Selectmen's Policies, the role of a liaison. First reading, June 17th, 2013. Second reading, June 24th, 2013. Third reading, July 1st, 2013. In my mind, with all of these, and it has to do with, you know, the reappointments and liaisons, and maybe we should all think about revisiting these 3 and bring them up to date as to what we think the board should be looking at as far as the liaison process, the appointment to board process, and the reappointment to the board process. That's where I would stand.
Okay. Ms. Keller?
Could I listen to Mr. Howell first, and then I'd like the answer, if you wouldn't mind?
It's up to Mr. Howell.
I really don't want to relitigate a lot of things, because there's been a lot of things that have been done through the years that had absolutely nothing to do with me that skirted the procedure. The only thing I can say is I spent no fewer than 3 meetings when I was chairing saying, does anybody have any issue with anybody who's on that list? And I was explicit that if you had any problems, and I count myself as anybody could have referred an individual, not to be fired, not to be not reappointed, but to be taken off the list for the automatic reappointment. And again, I'm not sure that I feel very strongly that we shouldn't have automatic reappointments, that the board should have the right to ask questions. There was no point in time that I presupposed that I was going to be the only person that was ever going to be involved in that process. And as I said, I never had the opportunity to even get to the point of addressing the problem because the person we were talking about just decided he'd rather quit than come in to have a discussion. I will also say that Mr. Pekarsky himself was the one who nominated my wife 21 years ago, and I feel like a little bit awkward having this discussion in general because she spent 21 years on a board where I did not vote. I did recuse myself. So beyond all of that, I start looking at what Pandora's box you're going to open with this. And I guess the question is, if you appoint somebody to a committee, does that mean, Mr. Handler, that you can't go in front of the Historic District Commission because you appointed them and you've got a project that's involved in that? I trust that there are honest individuals that can do their job if stuff is happening openly. And I did talk to Anita. I did talk to Mark. There was a performance problem. There was somebody who made a complaint. It was quite a substantial complaint, and I was not willing to say, he'll never get my vote. All I said is we needed to have a private conversation so it doesn't happen again. That's it. Now, if the process that you're describing involves us automatically reappointing everybody forever, I'm out, because I have a responsibility for the town to actually appoint people who well represent the town. As a matter of fact, anybody who's ever done an interview with me knows that that's one of the first things I say. And I think, Mr. Handler, you heard me say that too. It's a responsibility of the town. You need to be able to treat people publicly in a manner that you would like to be treated yourself. That stuff is said at every single interview. It's rote from what I do and the way I approach this. I have not done it differently in any of the 16 years, well, 13 out of the 16 that I was doing it. All I can say is that the remedy for this is sunshine. If you want to have a better understanding about it, and you have a particular person that you're not real happy about or are happy about, and you want to make sure that they're treated right, come to the meeting. But I repeat, we don't have the ability to actually make a recommendation beyond to actually appoint them and seat them. We only have the ability to interview them. And the whole point of the interview committee, the whole point is to assure ourselves that they will represent the town in a way that we would want to be represented. There's some things, I mean, essentially, if you want to think about this, you're performing a job interview with somebody. I mean, I know that it doesn't sound like it, but they're a special town employee if they get appointed. So we're asking questions, sometimes personal. You have time. What do you do during the winter? There are things that aren't. I understand what you were saying about the people that we did interview recently, but those were high-level positions that we really did want to do publicly, as if we were appointing a library trustee for a vacancy or something. The committee that was set up and designed to be a funnel, but not to be a final destination. And it's always been that way, and I have always recused myself when it revolved around my wife. If it starts getting to the point where anybody who has any contact with her, or in the case of you folks, anybody who has any contact with anything you're doing, I think you and I had this conversation about the liquor license a while ago. If it boils down, if you know somebody and you grew up with them, where are you drawing the line? I mean, if you're not satisfied that there's some sort of moral integrity for the individuals on the board. If I felt I had a conflict, I would recuse myself. Let me just flat out say that.
Thank you. You blended a lot of things there. You blended a lot of things. And I don't want to lose sight of what the actual discussion on the table is, which is, well, which is if the optics of your wife, since you've said it, I'm gonna now say it, I try to avoid that, but your wife is on the board, absent any information to this board. This is the first time I've heard you say you also talked to Mark about it. You've had multiple times where you haven't said anything about who you've spoken to. So, absent any information about why you were removing a certain person from the Board of Health,
I wasn't removing.
I'm sorry, removing off the reappointment list.
Reappointment list, I was
That's-
not removing.
No, but that's what we're talking about right now.
It is not.
We're talking about the reappointment list. I know you weren't removing him, because you didn't get there. He removed himself. So what you did over 3 meetings is you said, and I agree with you, if anybody wants to remove somebody off the list, please feel free. How would you have wanted us to go about doing that? Would you have wanted us to notify the chair and say, John Doe is being removed because of X, Y, and Z?
I'm not sure where you were in those meetings. That's exactly what I said, to contact.
I'm asking you to drill down to get an actual answer out of you.
The answer was to either contact the chair or the administration office.
Why didn't you do that yourself when you became on the interview committee and we had a new chair? Why didn't you let him know who you were gonna be removing off the appointment list? Like, the process you followed was quiet, secret, and cryptic. Period. So you leave me and others to determine, absent any kind of documentation about a complaint or a cause, you leave me to sit at the end of the table down here thinking, it's gotta be his wife. His wife has to be the one who's filing a complaint, because there's no other way to draw a conclusion. Now, let me just finish, right? So as I sit here for 10 weeks thinking that, you can imagine, I would assume, how it begins to grow and grow and grow, to a point where I would say to anybody, why would we ever want to go through this again? What is the point of ever putting this board or an interview committee member's integrity on the line again? Because it seems like your wife gave you a complaint, you didn't tell anybody about it, you acted on it, you directed a staff person to bring the person to you on the interview committee. I'm not really sure at this point where Ms. Doucette sits, and I don't want to know, but it seems like you did it all on your own. And I know, above and beyond everything, it's been made very clear to me from the beginning that board members do not operate independently. Now, I don't know how else to explain it, other than the facts that occurred, at least through my eyes. Now, maybe you did talk to Mark, maybe you did speak to Anita, maybe you did speak to administration. But, you know, when you and I dealt with golf committee, you and I dealt with 3 other people, it was on the table, Don.
It was not. As a matter of fact, you went around
All right, I'm
the
gonna
interview
steer, I'm gonna
committee.
steer us back to
I see
the,
it differently.
I'm gonna
Well,
just steer us back to the.
Can I at least get to respond? It had absolutely nothing to do with my wife. That's a spurious thought,
Sure.
number one. Number two, as I said, I did talk to people, would have talked to you. You knew about it. I'm sorry, if you're gonna fib to everybody, that's great, but you knew about this the Wednesday before that Monday meeting. You were asked to call me and you wouldn't. So,
No, I didn't.
yeah, okay.
I'm not gonna dispute it with you, Don.
Right.
I learned about it when the person called me Monday before our meeting. That's when I learned about it.
That is absolutely not true.
Documented. So, you know, Mr. Chair, I'm not interested in trying to determine who's right or wrong
No,
here.
agreed, and we're not
I'm
going to.
interested in, sorry to interrupt, I'm interested in moving forward with a process
Correct.
that puts this board, all the volunteers, and everyone involved who's trying to help the town of Harwich move forward in a productive and efficient way, get it done. That's what I want.
Yep.
So if the board votes 4-1, allowing board members to continue to do what Mr. Howell did, then I will not like it, but I will certainly respect it.
And my comment to that is, I would absolutely support not interviewing your spouse. But that's not what this was ever about.
All right, so The agenda item or the bullet within the agenda item has to do with the board member, having a family member on the committee or board that an applicant is seeking, and should that individual recuse themselves. Again, as I led off with earlier, so it won't be a surprise to anybody, I went back and forth on this one. I agree with the optics piece, Jeff, right? It's challenging. But where I struggle is where's the line? Because it could be a best friend, it could be a neighbor, it could be, somebody that you have a close personal relationship with that could impact it the same exact way. And those optics aren't always known. But, so to your overall point, the optics are less than optimal. But I go back to what I started with, that I think the interview committee process has worked fairly well over the history of this board, and so I would struggle to make a change at this time. However, with Ms. Doucette's comments, that is an avenue I would like to see us pursue in the near future, which is to bring those documents back for revision and potentially some updates, and we can see what can be added into those documents to kind of make things more palatable for all. So I like that suggestion. Anita? Mark?
Yeah, I didn't make any comments yet. I would say this here: if a board member has a family member on the reappointment list, should that member be required to recuse themselves from voting on the list? I think you should be able to recuse yourself if it's your direct family member, but not recuse yourself from the whole list. I mean, we may have 25 people on a list. I'll just recuse myself from something that involves a family member or brother. Second thing, I looked on the committee handbook, and I think this relates to what we're talking about. Any concerns regarding a board, a committee, or a commission member's ability to meet the responsibilities or conduct as outlined in the committee handbook will be referred to the interview committee for review. So to me, that's quite simple. I don't see what the big issue is.
The only thing I'll say on your comment on the voting list is, as Mr. Handler stated at the beginning, this wasn't quite mirroring what he had requested, and I'll take responsibility for that. The request was somewhat different. It was more about the interview process in the interview committee. Should a spouse or family member be part of the board or committee in which the new candidate's being interviewed for? So, but I understand, and I agree with you on the individual wouldn't necessarily need to recuse themselves from the entire list, just we would remove that one individual, the majority of the board could vote, and then address, the full board could vote, and then we address the individual on a one-off, but I would agree, not the list.
Mr. Chair, if I could
Please.
just drill down on one more thing
Yep.
to Mark's point, which I think is a good one. Any concerns regarding a board, committee, or commission member's ability to meet the responsibilities or conduct as outlined in the committee handbook will be referred to the interview committee for review. Excellent. Who is the referring entity? Is it one interview committee member? Is it anyone on the select board? Is it, who is the, I need clarity
Yeah.
on the process of a referral, because appointments are easy.
Yep.
Reappointments, I think, are gonna get a little more complicated as we go down the list, maybe.
Yeah.
In a discussion, maybe not.
Yeah.
But I need to walk away here tonight understanding whose responsibility it is
Yeah.
to refer somebody for a issue to the interview committee.
And I'll just quickly address it, and happy to open it up for greater discussion, but I think as you let off, we're not gonna solve everything tonight. I believe that's one of the things we could clarify in there. My personal opinion is that as I sit here, it would take one member of this board to send someone to referral. That's my opinion. Doesn't mean it's a collective decision, but that's what I think when we bring these back, those are the types of things we tighten up and make, clear for everybody, so there's no, ambiguity as we move forward.
Sure.
And I don't know what your thoughts are, if it takes more than one member, or, and you don't have to answer that tonight.
Well, I'll just fuel for thought. It can certainly be one member. If I get a complaint from somebody on the outside saying, Jane Doe is not treating the public correct, right? So then, if I'm on the interview committee, I can just independently do it? Or if I'm not on the interview committee, I have to then bring it to the interview committee for them to determine whether or not my request is gonna be granted. Like, there's a lot of things here that I think we are absent of process. And without process or with ambiguity, leads to this kind of thing.
Yep.
So that's it. We can discuss it,
Yeah.
you know, but I think we're drilling down on one or two issues instead of 7.
Yeah,
I
agreed,
think that's
agreed, right. And I think hammering these documents is gonna be what gets us to a point where we're at least somewhat more comfortable than we are today, right? Because today, as you said, there's too many question marks. And so if we can clean these up and present, you know, to this board, a plan that makes sense to everybody, then we move forward with that. But, and so, you know, we'll talk more about how we move forward with these documents and trying to, you know, clean them up. And, you know, I'll be candid, it's gonna fall on Jay's desk to begin with.
Yes.
So
I was afraid of that.
Right. So, but we'll get it to where we need to be, that everybody has clarity on it.
So there's a clear process as how we can follow this.
Yeah, because I think Mr. Hanlon's point's well taken.
Well
There's
taken.
too much, you know, of the unknown, uncertainty.
Correct.
I don't know if you're
And
taking
just-
public comment, but we have a virtual hand up.
Oh, well,
Oh,
okay.
boy, it wasn't,
Gonna
but,
make-
Mr. McCaskill. How about a brief comment, Mr. McCaskill?
Appreciate you accepting this. I apologize for not being at the meeting tonight. The Tuna Bite Off show was excellent tonight, so I'm late. It seems like we're debating 2% of what's actually happening. And to me, having served 6 years on the interview committee, this literally is a 2% discussion. And for Select Board Member Howell, this should be really, really, really simple. If a family member's involved, there's 5 of you. Somebody should recuse themselves, and one of the rest of you should jump in. And it's not just related to family. It would be related to anybody that works with you. And Don, it would be an interesting debate if we had it tonight in person. We've dealt with this in the past. This is a really simple discussion. And we talk about a need and knowing. What the public doesn't know is the very simple fact on this Board of Health issue. What the public doesn't know is what actually happened. And your entire responsibility as a select board is transparency to the public. I'm not going to agree with Jeff. I'm not going to agree with any of you on this. This is really simple. If it involves you personally, and there's a perceived conflict of interest, whether it's a legal conflict of interest or not, you should recuse yourself. And the public should understand what's going on. 98% of what the interview committee does is very transparent, very open to the public. Interview committee meets, you select somebody, and it votes through. What's happened in the last few weeks is a distraction from what's actually important. We can debate this all night long. You can debate this all night long. The public deserves transparency. And if there's somebody in our lives that's being interviewed, we should back off. The Board of Health thing, we could debate that forever. Nothing about that process was straightforward or correct. The chairman called legal counsel and then waited till he was selected on the interview committee and then brought it forward. Nothing about that process was transparent. The select board should simply say, if there's a perceived conflict of interest, you recuse yourself. I'm not exactly sure why this is so difficult, but it clearly is. And Don, with all due respect, you have a lot to say, but there's no merit to it to anybody that goes back and looks at every comment that you have made over the last 12 years that I've been involved that makes any sense whatsoever. Recuse yourself. Your wife is on the Board of Health. You called somebody that was just appointed that you interviewed and asked them to be on the Board of Health. That's public knowledge. You called them and said, apply for the Board of Health, as somebody that sat on the interview committee. And to you, Mr. Chair, that should be alarming that we're picking people to be on regulatory boards and there's no policy from the board. I applaud you all for having the conversation, but it should be alarming to the public that interview committee members are picking people and calling people to be on regulatory boards. There's no statement, anything that could be said that makes that okay.
Thank you, Mr.
I look
Chair.
forward to be part of the conversation. I apologize for not being in the audience tonight, but this seems very simple to me. Develop a policy that precludes somebody on the interview committee, family, friend, employee, or anything else to be interviewed by somebody on the interview committee, and a replacement of the 5 of you put on that committee.
Excellent.
Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, appreciate your time. So I think one of the things that, again, I'm happy to entertain any type of motion. I think one of the things that we'll do, regardless of a motion, is bring back the document that Anita outlined already today, and Mr. Kelleher as well. We'll put in an effort to clean it up, put in some stronger language that clears things up, and then bring it back to the board for discussion and ultimately a vote that more or less outlines the process and an unofficial policy of how we move forward with it. So that's where we'll leave number 3 right now. Number 4 is, should everyone on the reappointment list be interviewed? In other words, that way, and I'll start this off because I actually submitted this one. And as I told you at the beginning, although I submitted 2, I'm not inclined to support anything this evening. I sit here today and I don't believe in automatic reappointments. I believe the folks should come in. This board changes over time. And there are folks on these committees and boards that have been there for a long time. And I'll be candid, I think there's a few out there that they stay on the board or the committee because they get a letter in the mail that says you're still on the committee or the board. They don't even know when the term is up. So I'm not convinced, that some folks wouldn't give it a second thought if they received a letter saying you need to come in for an interview. Again, with all that said, I'm not looking to implement this, so I'm not gonna dwell on. The biggest piece the biggest point I wanna make is, I don't believe in automatic reappointments regardless of the individual, regardless of the board or the committee that they serve on. But happy to listen to the rest of my colleagues. Anita?
I thought about this a lot, and I think to interview 30 or 40 people before the reappointments will probably take an awful lot of time.
I wanted to give you something to do.
I guess you did. I don't know if I'm going to be on that committee, though, next year. But it would certainly be very time-consuming, and we'd really have to do a lot of scheduling to get that put in place. And you're right, they do receive letters, and I believe the letter says if you don't want the reappointment, to let them know, and they can go on from there, to which then the appointment would become available.
Yep.
But that'd be something really to think about.
Yep, all right. Mr. Handler?
I'd support it only when you get on the interview
There
committee.
you go.
No,
We'll do all 30 or 40 one night.
There you
I
go.
think there's merit to this, but I also do believe that this could certainly become a bit cumbersome. I think the way to potentially not need to do this is to have our liaisons be a little bit more knowledgeable and invested in the committees so that they can be part of that reappointment and maybe speak to each committee and whether or not there's an issue with 1 or 2 people on the various committees that I'm a liaison to. So I think you've got good points. I think probably want to give it a little more thought and kick it around.
Great, thanks.
Sure, the terms are 3 years. you know, if you staged it correctly, that wouldn't be that much of a job to interview them. I would prefer that if the committee chair said this particular person is doing a good job, it's only I would re-interview people that may not be showing up, that may be based on what the committee chair was, that wasn't really pulling their weight, then I would do it. I just find if I'm reading this correctly, 30 to 40 re-interviews annually at a certain point in time would just be too much. You wouldn't do a good job, first of all. So I would recommend, look at the committee chairs. If someone's not doing their job, bring them back in. And at least, like term limits, if the term is 3 years, maybe every 3 years, re-interview them, or at the most, at the end of 6 years. Because some people get calcified, and they're not bringing anything to the table. So thank you.
Yeah, no, agreed, and I'm not looking to implement it, but my only point to that is I wouldn't rely on the committee or board chair. I just think that could also be a biased opinion, but I understand where you're coming from.
That's what I would have said, because it's not a club. It represents the town. It's an agent of the town, everybody who's on that committee. And I don't want to get deeply into this, but since Mr. McCaskill made this sound so sinister, Mark Coleman was the person he's talking about. It turned out that our health director actually asked for a variety of skill sets when we were doing the vacancies, and then one of them had to do with excavations because of Title V. And I called him, but then again, I will say this flat out. I don't know of any select board member who's never actually talked to anybody in the community about serving the community.
It's actually what we're supposed to do.
I know. So I called somebody I thought had the wherewithal. Anita could have said, I can't believe how bad he was. We couldn't have agreed to it, but the fact of the matter is he went through the process we're all talking about. He filled out an application because he decided that he did want to participate in it. I'm not going to characterize what he said about the operation of the Board of Health over the past few years, but he was eager to be of help to make it work in the way that we want it to work. So as far as I was concerned, he was well qualified. He was somebody that came to mind mainly because of his expertise and his skill set. And I can hear an echo, so I'm pretty sure somebody's getting ready to say something.
That's all right, we're gonna move along.
And that's it, period. And I'll go back to the original thing. Wouldn't mind at all interviewing everybody, but even if that were to occur, I have never and will never interview my wife or vote on my wife because I haven't.
So that was number 4.
That was number 4. You were turning down your own
Yeah,
recommendation.
which is a smart move. 5, we already addressed, right? So we're going to update the documents that we have in the various locations and streamline, or not streamline, and clarify the referral process for current committee members to the interview committee. We all agreement on that? That's what we decided?
Absolutely.
All right. 6 is the open meeting law implications. And I believe, Don, you said you had a conversation with counsel on this?
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, this is where it gets murky, and Jeff's right about that. There's some cross currents once you get into reappointments, because the same recommendation doesn't apply to re-interview people. I'm satisfied with the process that we have now in actually posting for it, and as I said, inviting any select board member that wants to sit in on it to do so. But I think it would be awfully ponderous if we started getting involved with executive sessions for these things. Plus which, even if we did that, then we would have to go back and issue probably more detailed minutes, in which case we'd have to reconvene the interview committee a second time to approve their minutes in order to be able to move things along back to the select board. This is my least favorite discussion point here, to actually, get involved with executive sessions. I just don't think it's necessary, as long as we do these things as an open meeting.
Agreed. Mark?
I basically, the open meeting law, I just think it's way beyond the scope of what we've done. I almost like what you said at the beginning, Mr. Chair, is you know, the process has worked. This makes it more complicated than it should be.
Thank you. Anita?
No, and I agree. We've just, it's worked for many, many years, so let's keep it an open meeting.
Jeff?
Nothing from the corner office.
Yeah, and my only comment is, I think it's a stretch, you know, I can't even see a scenario where the chair would have to declare that an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on obtaining a qualified app, but.
And what
any-
chair?
Well, that's what I mean, right?
Sorry. Oh.
No, you just said which chair.
And what chair?
Right. So if there is a conduct issue, and council has advised Mr. Howell to not discuss, you know, those kinds of issues publicly, where do you do it?
The interview committee.
Yeah, well,
Which is a public meeting.
yeah,
But in point of practice, it has not been a circus. It's just been an open meeting with an open door. And as I said, you could sit in, other selectmen have through the years sat in. We do have minutes, but we're just not taping them.
and I think it's one of the things we can clarify, because, and perhaps council needs to offer a second opinion or an additional opinion, because I think the problem is having the conversation without the individual, right? So you're essentially slandering the individual without an opportunity for them to respond.
My next point.
So I believe if we have the conversation with them in attendance,
Yep.
that can happen in open session. So, again, oop,
Do you mind? The only thing I could add is that if that happened and it was, it can be done. You could, as a group, determine that it should be done in executive session. We have to notify the individual. They have the right to be there, and the board could determine that it wants to.
So for something
So,
wildly egregious.
Yeah,
We could do
you
that
could
in
decide as a
executive
group
session.
that this wants to be done. It's an exemption of the open meeting law. As a screening committee, you'd be able to do it. You'd have to notify the individual. They'd have the right to attend.
But there's the point I've been trying to make, and you landed it perfectly. We as a group would have to decide.
In that situation, yeah.
That has not happened in this past issue. And I'll leave it at that.
And number 7, again, was mine, referral hearing before the full board. So if a member of this board wants to send an incumbent to referral to the interview committee, instead of that, it would be heard before this full board. Again, I'm not looking to make this change, and in fact, it is an option within our current structure.
already there.
Correct.
Yep.
So it's not a mandate, and that's what I was looking for initially, but no, I'm not looking to do that tonight. But it is there. We have the option and ability to do it. So,
And one more,
Please.
I might add one more thing. If in the interview committee, the 2 interview committee members don't have consensus,
then it comes to us.
then it comes to the full board anyway.
Yep.
So there is a bit of a stopgap there, which I don't think I've seen it used in my 3+ years, but it's there. So,
Yeah, I don't recall if it was once since I came back or not, but either way, yeah. Again,
Not
it's
many.
there, and yeah, right. And again, I go back to, can we improve it, the process? Yes. Is it completely broken? No, it's not. It's worked well over the years, and I think we'll take a crack at cleaning it up and trying to make it better for everybody. More importantly, for the folks who want to be on these committees and boards, so they understand the process and feel comfortable with how things will play out as we move forward.
virtual hand if you want to entertain, or no?
If Mr. McCaskill can be brief in the interest of time, sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Brief, absolutely. It's interesting, Mr. Howell continues to fire shots from the background, considering that nobody's going to make a response. Having the 10+ years experience that I have the 10+ years experience where Mr. Howell has indulged what he'd like to get accomplished for the interview committee. And again, let's not lose sight, or the public lose sight, of the fact that we're talking about his wife on a regulatory board that he has interfered with many times, undeniably, with the department head and the administration, because he can't keep himself out of it. The public deserves to understand that he's calling people on other boards and saying, will you please apply for? And if the board as a whole, outside of him, doesn't understand that there's a conflict there, then there's something seriously wrong. Mr. Howell, if you want to debate with me, ask the chair for an agenda item to debate with me. I will debate with you all night long.
With all due respect,
Because
Mr.
you are a
McCaskill.
political hack.
Mr. McCaskill,
And
I'm
you
gonna interrupt you.
literally use the
Point of
system.
order,
I'm gonna
Mr. Chair.
interrupt
You
you,
literally
Mr.
use
McCaskill.
the system
Michael.
for your own benefit.
Michael.
And you did call people and ask them to apply
Michael,
for the
I'm gonna
Board of
interrupt
Health
you, please,
after you
Michael.
ran people off of it.
Michael,
So you are
Michael.
100% in the
Mr.
wrong,
McCaskill,
and I will
please.
debate with you any time.
Mr. McCaskill, please, I gave you an opportunity to speak, and you and Mr. Howell can have that conversation offline if you want to have a debate. It will not happen during
appreciate
this
that.
meeting. So,
Thank you,
for your
thank you,
input this
Chair.
evening.
But the public
Yep.
needs to understand what's going
And
on.
they will.
The
And they will.
public that you serve needs to understand what's going on.
Thank
And
you,
he
Michael. We're
opened the
moving on.
door for this conversation,
Yep.
not me.
This is why we miss you.
Thank you very much.
Moving on, Mr. Chair.
We're moving on, so again, and Don, I'm sure you want to respond, I'm going to ask you if we
I'm
can
not going
just
to.
move on this evening. So, item E is a discussion and vote on sending a letter to the Barnstable County Board of Regional Commissioners regarding development of regional impact referrals, and I believe, Jay, if you want to hit this, you crafted a letter
Thank you.
for us.
Yeah, so the next item on the agenda is a request that the board vote on to send a letter to the Barnstable County Regional Commissioners. As background, when a project meets certain size threshold, the Cape Cod Commission conducts a regional review process called the DRI, the Development of Regional Impact, which they look at things like traffic, wastewater capacity, other impacts on the community. Right now, Chapter 40B affordable housing projects are effectively exempt from that regional review process. This is all something the board knows very well. Last December, the board voted to request that the commission accept a discretionary referral for Pine Oaks 4, looking at 4 different issues: water resources, wetlands, wildlife, and plant habitat, along with transportation. Ultimately, the commission did not take up that review. The letter in front of you asks the county commissioners to pursue special legislation that would close that gap, giving the Cape Cod Commission the authority to accept discretionary DRI referrals on 40B projects while preserving all of 40B's existing timelines and protections for affordable housing. This came at the request of the meeting we had in this room regarding, with the Cape Cod, the Barnstable County Board of Regional Commissioners, the 3 individuals that met in that room, and they asked us to take if we were interested in that, to take a vote and send something to them, looking to have them develop that legislation, so this letter would effectively do that.
I assume everybody, the letter was in the packet, I assume everybody had a chance to review it. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we vote on sending a letter to the Barnstable County Board of Regional Commissioners regarding development of regional impact referrals as presented in our packet.
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion, Mr. Howell.
Yeah, we'll point out, Jeff and I both went to that meeting, and we were in lockstep about that process. Thought it was a little bit duplicitous for them to say that your own boards should be able to handle this well. I think they all darn well know that our boards don't have the ability to flat out turn something down. The other thing, for the record, I want to be noted is that the first letter, I made it really clear when I brought that in front of the board that it was only step 1. And it was only there to reveal the fact that, in writing from the chair to the executive director of the Cape Cod Commission, that we knew full well that we were going to come back with a written denial, that they would not take it up. This is step 2. And I do believe it's not going to be sufficient. There's going to wind up having to be a third letter, but this is exactly what we should be doing. And what we really want is for them to help not just petition the court, but to actually help represent the aggregate of the whole county. That we're all upset that we have virtually no home rule over anything. And as you heard at the beginning of the meeting, it's going to get worse. They're starting to pick on other things that we did have local control over. I mean, it gets to the point where I'm not sure why we even meet except to celebrate people's births and deaths. It's unfortunate that we've gotten to this point, but we really should be able to reflect the opinions of the townspeople, and those regulatory boards have their hands tied. There's nothing they can do other than somewhat modify the request. They can't turn it down.
Can't turn it down without going to court, but yes, I
Yeah,
agree with you.
and we will not win.
Right. Sometimes the fight's worth the fight. Mr. Keller?
I'm all set. I think the letter is good. Move it on.
Anita?
I'm all set,
Jeff.
thank you.
I am thrilled that we continue to apply pressure. As Mr. Howell stated, we were in lockstep during that meeting. I actually watched their Falmouth meeting when they traveled to Falmouth, and they essentially regurgitated everything we said at the Falmouth meeting as almost an action item. So that was really good for me to hear in real time. And again, I'm glad we're continuing to apply the pressure. I don't think we should let up one bit. So I'm fully in support of this.
Excellent. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Mr. Chair, I move that we vote to appoint a Herring. Where's Stephanie? Is she in the room? I move that we vote to appoint a hearing officer to conduct a public hearing for an alleged entertainment liquor license violation that occurred July 31st, 2026 at Perks, 545 Route 28.
Might I recommend that motion say that we...
Town administrator.
Yeah.
Yes, I know, sorry. I move that we vote to appoint the town administrator for everything I said prior to that.
Sure, second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Mr. Chair, I move that we vote to appoint the town administrator as hearing officer to conduct a public hearing for an alleged liquor license violation that occurred on August 7th, 2026 at Noble House, 21 Route 28.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Mr. Chair, I move that we vote to approve this useful life determination vote that I'm going to read. I, the clerk of the Select Board of the Town of Harwich, Massachusetts, certify that at a meeting of the board held August 24th, 2026, of which meeting all members of the board were duly notified, and at which a quorum was present, the following vote was unanimously passed, all of which appears upon the official record of the board in my custody. Voted that the maximum useful life of the departmental equipment listed below to be financed with the proceeds of the $577,500 borrowing authorized by a vote of the town passed on May 4th, 2026, which was Article 18, and the $425,000 borrowing authorized by a vote of the town passed by a vote of the town passed May 4th, 2026, which was Article 19, is hereby determined pursuant to General Law, Chapter 44(7)(1), as to be as follows. Purpose: ambulance, which was Article 18, $577,500. Maximum useful life is 8 years. Harbor Master boat, which was Article 19, $425,000. Maximum useful life, 15 years. Clerk of the Select Board.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
That's line 3.
I know Mr. Pekarsky would love me.
Sentence 3?
Want me to slow it down?
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Item I.
Mr. Chair.
If, in case you're not aware, Mr. Handler, we're going to remove October 10, 2026.
We're removing October 10, 2026.
From our
correct.
calendar?
Mr. Chair, I move that we vote to approve a special permit application for a one-day wines and malt permit for Cape Cod Rugby for events to be held on September 5th, 2026 from 10 A to 2 P, September 28th, 2026 from 10 A to 2 P, event to be held at 75 Oak Street, the Jimmy McPhee Memorial Field.
Second.
Motion and a second. And just so you all know, there's a conflict on October 10. The field had already been rented to another organization, so therefore that prior organization takes precedence. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Mr. Chair, I move that we vote to approve a special permit application for a one-day wines and malt permit for Rotary Club of Harwich and Dennis for an event to be held on September 19th, 2026 from 5 P to 10 P, event to be held at 15 Great Western Road.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? The only thing I'll say is Mr. Pagliaro says thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Mr. Chair, I move that we vote to approve, I move that we vote to remove Deputy Library Director and Department of Public Works Director from the Personnel Bylaw.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Mr. Chair, I move that we vote on the comprehensive wastewater management plan next steps.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Mr. Chair, I move that we vote to approve the flow neutral policy.
That one there we'll
Yeah.
hold off on.
You want to hold on that?
Yeah, on voting.
On voting.
On voting.
You want to explain it? I think,
Yes,
then?
please.
Okay.
Yeah.
So right now, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I didn't second it yet.
No, I know. I said, do I have a second?
No, not yet, until he,
You want a discussion first? Okay.
Yeah, so this is an introductory action item this evening regarding the flow neutral bylaw. Over the past several months, the town has fielded a growing number of inquiries and concerns from property owners in the Pleasant Bay sewer service area that are looking for additional bedrooms and flow and expansion on their property. And there's lots of questions about whether connecting to municipal sewer is allowed on those parcels. So at the same time, we've had questions about the continued need to record nitrogen easements, including equestrian easements, which is awfully complicated for us to try to figure out answers to, once a property connects to the sewer in abandoned septic system. So at one point in time, a lot of these properties were required, when they wanted to have horses or cows on their property, they were required to get easements from their neighbors to be able to offset the nitrogen. Well, what happens once they get hooked onto sewer in the future? So that, along with the number of questions on, can I add a fourth bedroom? Can I do an ADU in my backyard? These things have come, they're coming hot and heavy on our expanded, on where we're at, with sewer. So given the number of inquiries, I've asked Dan and Waterworks Consulting to review our existing sewer use regulations and give us a clear answer as to what we think we can do moving forward. We're in a situation where we've committed to a certain amount of flow in Chatham. We have no idea yet, once built out and hooked up, whether we exceed that number that we've already given Chatham for our flow. I mean, based on design flow, we don't believe that we held, but we could. When you couple these all together, not knowing where we're at with flow and requests from people that are looking for additional flow, I asked Dan to try to help us formulate some sort of bylaw that would bring to the board for a discussion so that we can move forward with eventually a flow neutral policy. But I do, before I turn it over to Dan, this is definitely going to be a controversial thing for residents in the town, because what we're asking for you to do is basically approve a moratorium to not allow additional flow until we know more information. And that's gonna be hard for people to deal with. So, this is definitely a hot button topic, or has the potential to be in the future, that we really need to dig in on. With that, I'll turn it over to Dan. He's gonna give a brief presentation, and then we can go from there.
Try to keep it as brief as possible. Flow neutral just so happens to be one of those very complicated things I've been thinking about for the last 10 years. So please stop me and interrupt me if you have questions as we go. It was actually this board, probably back in 2017, 2018, that adopted the flow neutral bylaw. It was the land use controls document that was brought before this board by its former wastewater consultant, with the purpose of adopting this policy to make the town eligible to receive 0% financing for its wastewater construction projects. So that was really the impetus for adopting it at the onset. I would also go back to 2016 and some of the original promises, at least as I remember them, that this board made to the public as it was contemplating constructing a wastewater collection system. There was conversations at the time, and have been persistent for the past decade or so, about concerns of overdevelopment and how the town was going to prevent sewer-induced growth, things of that nature. So in the slides that were presented or included in the packet, the select board governs 8 sewer service areas. They each have a defined amount of flow that was calculated by the previous wastewater consultant who developed the CWMP. Those flows were based off of water use, historic water use, and then they had escalated and anticipated, growth factor, so to speak, for those remaining watersheds. Where it starts to get complicated is, as this board adopted 8 watersheds and a finite capacity within each of them, what came with that was additional sewer use regulations, if I can jump to them, that really define how a property is going to be considered for its current wastewater flow and how it will be evaluated for potential development for future flow considerations. As highlighted in the packet and in the presentation, there's some pretty significant lines stating no person shall modify an existing structure or change its use so as to increase wastewater flow. Additionally, when it refers to determining how much wastewater flow a parcel is entitled to, it refers back to Title V. Title V that was adopted by the town as amended by the Board of Health in 2016 when the CWMP was adopted. Now here's where it gets fun. So the Board of Health regulations as amended in 2016 limit properties within a drinking water recharge area to 1 bedroom per 10,000 square feet. Up on the map is Harwich, and it's kind of tough to see, but the pink areas up on the map are everywhere that is currently designated as a drinking water protection district. So if you live within the Phase 2 or Phase 3 area and you were hooked up to sewer or hooking up to sewer, and you were to come in to fill out a building permit application seeking to put in another bedroom, through that permit review process, if your parcel was identified as being within the drinking water recharge protection district, they would look at what your lot space is, how many bedrooms you have, to ultimately identify if you have the available lot space to construct another bedroom. This also touches ADUs. ADUs can be constructed by right. However, all construction must adhere to the sewer use rules and regulations, which state that you cannot increase flow beyond what was allowed to you in 2016. So if you have a 3-bedroom property and a 40,000 square foot builder's lot, you could build that ADU out behind the property, 40,000 square feet, 3 bedrooms and an ADU. If you had a 4-bedroom property on that same 40,000 square foot lot, the current rules and regulations would prohibit you from building that ADU out back unless you converted one of the existing bedrooms into a non-conforming bedroom space. Where that becomes difficult is, I guess, the intent of the Select Board's promises, commitments back in 2016, how we manage that on the day-to-day at the staff level. What's on the slideshow or the slide deck right now is an overlay of the Phase 3 area, which is those blue parcels that are kind of underneath the purple, half underneath the purple. And this is where it really starts to get unique, because we're referring to 2016 Board of Health regulations. Our limiting factor is that purple blob. So someone outside of that could build an ADU, could put in an additional bedroom, and the only limitations that they would have would be front, rear, side lot setbacks, things of that nature. It wouldn't limit them based off of nitrogen, nutrient, or drinking water protection. So that's really where I think future policy discussions should be surrounded, is, how does Harwich want to allow growth where it can, or right now for areas outside of this purple blob, we now have our nitrogen sensitive designated areas through Mass DEP, which, if anything is built or constructed in Harwich within any of these green boundaries, it will have a direct impact on the town's ability to meet its watershed permit goals and regulations and remove the amount of nitrogen required to clean up the harbors and embayments. To me, I think that personally, the green map is ultimately the areas that the sewer use regulations, the watershed permit regulations, and the like at the state level are looking to protect. I think right now the current policy, because we're looking back to that 2016 Board of Health regulation, leaves some gaps and make it difficult to stick to what the original commitments of the town were when they said you can't develop beyond what your kid, we're protecting the environment, we're not going to allow sewer-induced growth. That becomes difficult when we have patchworks as shown in the map that I just brought back up. So I know it was probably a lot, and I guess I'll leave any questions, but I think before you tonight is, this is how we're currently applying the current regulations at the day-to-day, at the staff level. Decisions as to how this is managed in the future, I think is still up for debate, but I think we're looking for this board to really reaffirm what the current regulations state. So when someone comes in to the health department, to the building department, looking for that building permit, there's a mutual understanding amongst the select board, town staff, and residents that this is what the current regulations define is acceptable. And then what we do with future flow, I think, is to be determined.
Excellent. Open up to questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have two completely different areas to question. The first one was, if you recall, we had a meeting in the administrator's office with some of the folks from Dennis, and we were talking about flow rates and what could be done. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, this whole thing kind of blows up. The 40Bs used to be viewed through the lens of if they can't meet Title V, that was a deal killer regardless of anything else that was happening. But as I recall, the way the regulations read now, if a 40B project is proposed and it has like a large impact, if there's a sewer anywhere near, we're obligated to hook them in.
Yes, with one important caveat. And this is ongoing with other developments in town. So if a 40B comes across, and I'm sure there's still some refinement to what I'm about to say, but when a project comes through, if they're within a nitrogen sensitive area, they're supposed to offset the nutrient loading above and beyond what current zoning could afford, right? So if you put 100 units 40B on a lot that could typically only house 10 units, they would have to offset the other 90 units worth of nitrogen. Now, that could be done through the developer giving a grant to the town. It could be done by the developer sewering an adjacent neighborhood to the development to offset additional nitrogen load that they would otherwise be generating. But the state is requiring kind of a back and forth between developers and the municipalities to offset those nutrient loadings.
Same state that's defending our estuaries. Number two is more of a universal thing. We have no impact. It's one of those, again, where the state holds all the cards. But the state constructed this whole thing based on bedrooms. And that's how they were calculating flows, and that's what the mandate is. And the onset of Airbnbs has completely blown that construct up, because if this is about nitrogen being developed and taken away, when you start seeing, I know I've got an Airbnb right across the street from me, and I'm sure other people do around their area. You start seeing somebody rent, and then there's 4 or 5 Land Cruisers that come in, and they all break out the air mattresses. That whole idea that, well, it only has 3 bedrooms, it completely goes away, because you're counting at least 15 people that are staying there. I'm not sure how to handle that, but that's like, we're doing all of this work, and that's just blowing it all up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a good answer for that one. Guilty as someone who may have done that up north, not on the Cape, so. But I understand, what you're saying, and I think, yeah, it's tough.
I just think it's a discussion to be had later, because we're losing control over that to a bunch of businesses, actually. A lot of these, if not most of them, are LLCs that come in, speculate, they buy a house, and they figure that they're all set. They got a Title V, they've got the same 3 bedrooms that they've always had, and the only difference is now they're populated by 15 or 20 people when there was 2 people there in the first place.
I think another thing that I kind of glossed over, this policy, the bylaw, the land use controls document this board has adopted, the town has adopted with regard to the 0%. There, from what I understand currently, the check and balance on that is when you are submitting an application to the State Revolving Loan Fund, there's a question in the application that turns out to be this thick that says, do you have a flow neutral bylaw or policy? and it's a checkbox, yes or no. I don't know if that's gonna maintain the current, as funds become more competitive and all the capes start building sewers, if it's still gonna be simply a yes or no checkbox.
I can say, I sit on the Clean Waters Board, and we've had DOR in to give us some instruction on that is wholly, in their mind, a financial instrument. They could care less about the other implications in any way, shape, or form. That's a check and balance against the IRS returns each year because they're trying to collect the rooms tax. And they want to make sure that the box getting checked correlates to the reported income over here on a completely different, and they have crosswalk systems in their computers to be able to tabulate that. And they made it really clear, they're not sharing it with us, and it has nothing to do with the flow. It has everything to do with collecting the rooms tax that's dedicated to, the clean water.
Mr. Kelleher.
Sure. Thank you, Dan. It's great having you on board. Is the limiting factor for East Harwich, the Phase 1 and 2 and 3, is that we can only send 300,000 gallons to Chatham? And once that's ascertained in terms of the flow, will that free things up for the future?
So the 300,000 gallons is an upper ceiling, so to speak, for what the town's purchased in Chatham. Right now, you're averaging about 45,000 gallons per day to Chatham. Peak day was August 1st with 52,000 gallons. What that looks like when Phase 3 and Phase 3A are fully built out and constructed, if it's fully built out and you get to 250,000 gallons per day, I think that's when you guys can have a discussion as to, okay, how do we allocate our surplus capacity, so to speak. But if you start dicing it up today, you run the risk of giving it away before you know what you got.
Okay, good point. Just one last thing. You said, we may have some potential controversies with people going to building department. Do we have some short, to the point, explanations to people coming in and they say, I want to add a bedroom? And when they hear the answer, no, this goes back to 2016, do we have any ready to use explanations for why this is, so we don't have headbutting,
This is kind of the first.
This is what we're trying to do tonight, is get to that.
Put a postcard,
Yeah.
Mark, with your face on it that says.
Mark says no.
This is 100% like,
I like the Two Stooges, you and I.
right now, I can say from a staff perspective, right now, we have people calling to Jason's department at wastewater and water, and people calling to Carrie consistently that are, I'm hooked up to sewer now, I want to build additional rooms, isn't that the benefit of sewer? And they're not wrong, it is, but the problem is to what Jan just said, is, what if we oversell that 300,000? We have no backup plan, we can't do that, and we're in the middle of a project where we don't know what our exact flow is gonna be, so, that's the point of tonight.
Do we need to put something out there?
We will, yes, for sure.
I think you're gonna have to avert something, so.
I don't have anything, but
Jeff?
thank you very much.
Dan, I'm confused, and you said it right out of the gate, this is confusing, and I was gonna say, everything you bring to us is confusing. But, so, there is a regulation from 2016 in place right now in the town of Harwich.
Yes.
What are we being asked to vote on?
It's more,
Like, are we supporting the regulation?
I guess, affirming the current application and interpretation of the regulations. Really, and to start the discussion as to how are we gonna handle this moving forward. I would argue Harwich is probably one of the first communities really digging into what it means to be a flow-neutral, community, and how to manage that as the sewer collection system is built out. You guys are a lot further ahead than a lot of the other Cape communities, so I think it's, there's not a lot of peers to look to.
Reaffirming the intent, I believe, Jeff, would be the best way to handle it, because when questions come in to the health department right now, although we have the policy from 2016, it's ambiguous to answer all the questions that come in. It doesn't give her the teeth to have the answers.
And that
Please.
that moves me to my next question, is the moratorium that you're speaking of, right? Townwide or just in that purple bubble, the blob?
Loaded question. No, so, and the moratorium isn't a full blanket moratorium, so to speak. In the situation I described earlier with the 3-bedroom house on the 40,000 square foot lot, under this moratorium, as I'm proposing, they would still be able to construct that 4th bedroom because it would have been allowed under Title V in 2016.
Or an ADU?
Or an ADU, or any yes.
Or a
precisely.
buildable lot that we anticipated would be built, that hasn't been built yet.
This is really seeking a moratorium with regard to requests for increases in flow. My understanding is that there's been a couple that have come before the Board of Health already, saying, hey, I have a 1-bedroom house on a lot big enough for 2. I have its 2-bedroom septic system. They're looking for an increase in bedroom count that would be in contradiction to the 2016 Title V regulations.
And to go back to your other question too, Jeff, I'm sorry, I get tag teaming it the best we can here, this would only relate to the sewer service areas that are contemplated right now, so 2, 3, and 3A. So not the rest of the town.
And that's why I was a little unclear. So as I read, and were you the one who put the recommendations for the select board position? Is that what you put?
Yeah.
That was you who did that? Okay. Okay.
So Dan says no.
Yeah, you put his
Well,
face on the postcard. He's a consultant.
People approached me back in 2016 on the side of Route 137 and said, oh, sewer's coming, I can put a new bedroom in. And I had to say at that point, no. If you couldn't do it before, you're not going to be able to do it moving forward. That was the intent of the flow neutral bylaw. That was the promise of the select board that, this wasn't going to turn into sewer-induced growth. This is really the first time since then that it's been tested.
Right, and if I just, I remember in East Harwich, everybody was concerned that this was gonna be like a license to just develop East Harwich, right? So this flow neutral policy is in perpetuity, and it's only gonna grow to different areas of the town as we begin to put sewer in those areas of the town.
Correct.
So as of right now, your recommendation is to do it for 1, 2, and 3, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And my only comment there, Terry, I'll give you the floor in a second, but my only comment there, it's in perpetuity up until the time we bring it back. So it's not,
Well, that,
because we need to readdress this,
but isn't, okay, so to,
and hopefully not 10 years from now.
right, and I didn't want to ask this question, but since you brought it up, is this a state mandate that flow neutral is something the town has to adopt, or else, like?
0%.
0%.
You have a flow neutral policy, the town is eligible for 0% financing for all the sewer construction.
It's the box we check on the SRF, that we have to have it to check that box.
So then I'm gonna ask the chair when we revisit, what are we revisiting?
What I envision is if we see that, output is significantly less than 300,000 a day, why wouldn't we readdress it? Why wouldn't we bring it back?
Because we're already flow neutral by default.
Well, that can be argued, but yes, but in my opinion, in my, uneducated opinion, yes.
Not at all.
And what I struggle with, and I wasn't gonna go down this path, but I'll say it briefly, is when you have these current homes who are footing the bill for this, and then a development comes in 5 years from now or 10 years from now and hooks up to that, well, why the hell wasn't I able to add a bedroom or an ADU? Yet that development was able to go in and absorb, what was available within the, the daily allotment. So, again, for a much larger discussion.
Much larger discussion,
Yeah.
which at some point we definitely
That's what I mean,
need to have.
and not in 10 years.
Not in 10 years.
No, and
Preferably with this board,
When we start to get some true flow and have a real understanding of what it is, right?
which could be in
Is
10
that-
years.
Yeah, supposedly,
One thing that's an important distinction, right? So the existence of a flow neutral bylaw policy is separate from how it is applied on the day-to-day.
Of course, why?
So, so in East Harwich, we have the 300,000 gallons per day of flow, and the limiting factor is 2016 regs, Board of Health amended. That regulation can be changed so that it doesn't reference the 2016 Board of Health regulations, and then the drinking water protection limitation of 1 bedroom per 10,000 square feet of lot space would no longer be applicable. And develop could occur in East Harwich so long as you stay beneath that 300,000 gallons per day threshold. So in the future, if you build everything out and you have 150,000 gallons and you don't want to exercise your buyback provision in the IMA, you could allow development, redevelopment of the existing East Harwich area that would still be in conformance with the 300,000 gallons.
So we're not there yet. We're just not even
Not
close
even
to
close.
be able to determine this.
Yep.
So,
No,
okay,
but that's
thank you.
exactly when we could look at
Sure,
revising it.
sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Terry, sorry for the wait.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. How do the new state deregulations fit into this, where they've removed all building problems, permitting, et cetera, that people have had, and kind of opened it up to a carte blanche of, yes, you can, yes, you can, yes, you can. And how's that going to affect Cape Cod with our water problems? I don't understand how that's going to fit into this. And I think that the town could be potentially against Massachusetts law if you put a moratorium in without getting some real clarification here, because the state's superseding what everybody has already done. So I'm real concerned about the word moratorium until you really get legal advice on that, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Always happy to challenge the Commonwealth. All right, so, another question?
No.
We had a motion. You want to repeat it?
Well, the motion was to vote to approve the flow neutral policy. But I would add to that motion, if it makes sense, the already in place flow neutral
Affirm.
policy. Affirm the flow neutral, because I'm having a really hard time voting for something that's already on the books.
Sure.
Or, Mr., could it be to vote the recommended select board position that's in the
Affirm the recommendation.
affirm the recommended select board position, which is, I could read it if that's okay.
Please.
Is that all right, Mr.
Yeah,
Chair?
that'd be lovely.
And
And take
I'm
your
good
time.
at it. It's like Ron Burgundy over here. Until the town, there we go. Until the town staff has sufficient connection and operating data to reasonably evaluate build-out flows and remaining treatment capacity in the Pleasant Bay Sewer Service Area, the town maintains a temporary moratorium on the approval of variance requests that would increase the allowable wastewater flow assigned to the individual parcel. Nitrogen-related easements be reviewed for release or modification following permanent sewer connection and proper abandonment of the on-site sewer system. However, such release or modification should not create or imply an entitlement for additional bedrooms, development rights, or wastewater capacity. I think that ties pretty much everything we just talked about together.
The only question I would ask is, does that mirror the existing regulatory policy?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfectly, okay?
In my summation,
Word for word.
All right,
All right, so I have a motion?
yes, so
Do I have a
moved.
second?
As I understood it, changed second.
Yes, so moved to the
Mo-
thing on the board.
Motion and a second to,
Affirm the existing,
Affirm the
Affirm.
position,
the existing position.
existing position from 2016.
clear as mud. All right, hearing no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you. This will help us from a staff perspective. This is the postcard that we put out.
Get Mark to do a headshot.
Put his face on.
Chair, I move that we vote to approve a letter to the Massachusetts Department of Transportation supporting regarding Route 6, Exit 82 and Exit 85 acceleration and deceleration lanes as presented in our packet.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion, Mark.
Yes, I would recommend it is an excellent letter, but I would recommend you put a paragraph in there to give some real-world scenarios. In other words, we're having situations where the exit ramp backs up onto Route 6. You can't either exit on or Route 6. Maybe get some input from the fire chief about how it affects ambulance runs. But I think for the person reading this in the state, if you get some real-world examples, that one paragraph, that would help them envision what the real problem is, so.
Mr. Chair, I can
Please.
say this, fine gentleman right here is a member of the Traffic Safety Committee and
Yes, he is.
has this, this was part of the discussion that we had.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is
Evening.
Gerald Beltis. I am a member of the Traffic Safety Committee, and I'm probably the instigator of this. This has been going on for quite a few years, and as a retired firefighter from Chatham, I would hear the scanner of Harwich Fire and Police going to accidents on Route 6 repeatedly. It costs the town money and assets to go out there to fix a problem that the state is either ignoring or doesn't recognize yet. We brought it up to the state 10 years ago. Link has a letter to the state to ask them, when they were repaving Route 6 10 years ago, to look into expanding the on-ramp acceleration lane. We had Cape Cod Commission, Traffic Division, Steve Tupper look at this, and his analysis showed that current regulations for an acceleration lane is somewhere around 400 feet. The lanes that are out there now, built in the 1950s, are around 200 feet. And that's what causes the people to merge or have trouble yielding onto the Route 6. People on the highway stop. It slinkies back, creates a backup, going down almost to 137 at sometimes, and causes people who are not paying attention to drive into the back of a car in front of them that has stopped for the traffic. They had a meeting a month or two ago on their 5-year plan of improvements that the state's willing to work on in the state here, in the Cape here. And I was at that meeting on a Zoom connection, and they didn't even recognize this. So I had brought it up. A few weeks later, we had our Traffic Safety Committee meeting. Jay was nice enough to attend, and we brought it up. The fire department has responded to about 200-plus accidents over the past couple of years on Route 6. Use of an asset that doesn't really necessarily need to be there if the problem is corrected. The police didn't have numbers. I don't know where their standings are. And if we were to do a public information request to the state police, they could probably fill in more, because the town police don't go to every accident out there. So what we're looking for is to get it on their 5-year plan, and sending this letter to them explaining that this problem has been going on for over 10 years, and they are just doing analysis paralysis, as it is said, to not even look at this problem. So we want to get them to address it. Once the letter goes out, Link has promised to send it out to a couple of people that he knows to get their attention on it as well, that are on the Cape Division.
Excellent, thank you. I know Mr. Kelleher brought up a recommendation. We could vote to approve a letter with some modification with some police and fire.
I had a thought, is I could, I'm gonna send this via email, is I could include that all in the body of the email and attach the letter, if that's okay with you.
That's fine. I just think a
I have that
real-world
data,
situation.
so I could
may
include that
also-
data all in the email and then just have the letter be the attachment.
Jerry?
I'd like to also see if we could send it to our state rep, Ms. Luddy, and to Julian Sear. They live in town, or they travel through that area. I'm sure they're affected by this backup as they go down Route 6. It affects everybody on the Lower Cape, that this backup is happening every day.
Would it be important to add the potential development of the Marceline property as well?
I can add that as well.
You know, you've got Pine Oaks, Marceline property, Penrose property. Like, you know, it's time that we got, and thank you for this, time that we were a little more proactive. And if this is the place to start, then let's start here.
I'll include all that in the email that I send.
Jerry, go ahead.
If the Marceline property gets developed, there's a section of 124 that's state-owned and regulated due to the on-ramps, the off-ramps. So if they decide to develop that, whether it's a nursing home or a Lowe's or a Market Basket, whatever, if they touch that section of the state highway, they're gonna have to go for a review under the state. The state's gonna probably make them put in traffic lights, et cetera, to any mitigation that it's gonna cause for that property to affect their on-ramps.
It's a big deal, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Motion?
Made one.
Did you?
Yeah.
Include all that?
It
All right.
included all that.
And we had a second.
Yeah, about an hour ago.
All right, so thank you, Jerry. No further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chair, I move that we vote to approve the proclamation recognizing September as National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month in the town of Harwich.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Contracts.
Mr. Chair, I move that we vote to approve a contract with SAFE, S-A-F-E, Boats International, to furnish a SAFE 27 center console boat as a replacement boat for Saquatucket Harbor in the amount of $424,689.67.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. It's the SS Kelleher, I believe.
The SS Kelleher,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
paid for by the moratorium. Mr. Chair, I move that we vote to approve the 2026 Community Preservation Act agreement with the Lower Cape Community Development Corporation, DBA Community Development Partnership for the Lower Cape Housing Institute in the amount of $10,000.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
And Mr. Chair, I move that we vote to approve a contract with Colonial Municipal Group for vehicle replacement to furnish and equip a 2027 Ford F-450 one-ton dump truck in the amount of $127,723.65.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Select Board member report, Mr.
Have at it.
I have nothing really other than a question about revolving fund, and how are we looking on the, a discussion on the revolving funds?
So we completed the cultural center revolving fund, and Jen is currently working on the rec department one. My guess is probably in September, that one will be completed. From there, we haven't talked about which one we'd look at next. Yeah.
Those were my two, especially with the incoming, rec director.
I think she's almost complete with the rec one, but I'd say in September would be a time frame.
Nothing more, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Anita?
Thank you.
No, I have nothing to report, thank you.
Mr. Kelleher?
Sure. I live in West Harwich, and the J.J. Foley's backyard reaches my backyard. So when you have a discussion with the town of Dennis, I wish you'd bring that up. I live approximately a quarter of a mile, half a mile away from J.J. Foley's. I can hear the DJ and the music. Second thing, I hope, Mr. Chair, for the next meeting, that we can schedule a vote for our appointment to the Pleasant Bay Alliance. We may even have 2 vacancies, but I'd like to schedule that. They have the next meeting September 8th, and I think it's important we have a representative there. Final thing, I read in the Chatham main sheet that they discovered West Nile virus in Chatham. It was also in the Cape Cod Times today. They've discovered West Nile virus in Chatham. I think it's something of note that the health department should know about. And also, I would recommend for a future meeting, I'd love to see the Cape Cod Mosquito Control Department company. I see they're out in Queen Anne Road. Come in and talk about what they do, and I think it'd be very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelleher.
I have nothing.
Nothing. I also have nothing.
Move to adjourn.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.